Hello everybody and welcome into the latest live computer build. Myself, Kerry Holzman, and
Mitch Morrison. It's Friday.
Mitch is back with his Toto shirt.
Yeah, one of 50 even. No more
50
no
Toto
even.
Shirts, no two the same.
And then they're touring next year with Journey again, like they did this year.
I thought they retired.
The problem is they showed the like 40 cities, and Phoenix isn't one of them.
Yeah.
But they're out in Palm Springs at a casino, so I'm like, you know, I don't. Journey with the guy, they're okay, but I'm like, that means Toto's warming up for them, so they'll do a short set, and they claimed that in 2023 they would go out after the Journey thing by themselves, and I'm like, that's when I want to see them, because then you get a nice 90-minute or a 2-hour set with just them doing their songs.
But it's not the whole band, right? Didn't the one guy leave the band?
It's Steve Lukather's been with him. He's the lead guitarist, and then Joseph Williams is the lead singer.
And he's the son of John Williams, the guy who does all the movie theater,
the Star Wars, yeah,
Star Wars, E.T.,
Jaws,
Superman, Jaws.
Yeah, and his dad's still alive and kicking.
John Williams.
Yeah, I'll bet he's 90, 91. So
they said Jerry Lee Lewis died the other day, and then they said no. We retract that. He's still alive. And then today they said he died.
No.
So I thought he died a long time ago. Jerry Lee Lewis, Great Balls of Fire, the guy who married his 13-year-old cousin, that guy?
He must have been 112.
I don't know. I didn't even know he was still alive. But he must have barely been on the edge there, and somebody anonymously reported, and it was a little bit early on that. But enough with the gloom. It's Friday. It is October 26, 2022. We're just near Halloween.
And the weather finally
it's in the 80s.
Dipped. Evenings are cool. Not cold, but cool.
Oh, it gets cold. I mean, it gets down to 50, lower 50s.
You could sit outside with a glass of beer, but not in a T-shirt. You'd need a little little light jacket or sweatshirt. Well,
what did you say?
It's the 28th, not the 26th.
Did I say it was the 26th?
Yeah.
You know, I really should get my glasses.
Yeah.
Thank you for the correction. Friday, October 28th. I guess the 26th would have been a Wednesday.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't mind me. Everything's perfectly mellow and calm over here. I'm not at all stretched
thin.
Yeah. So that's a good start to the show, isn't it? Yes. I don't even know what day it is. 3 days. So Halloween is Monday?
Yeah. Yeah. Chat, can we get a 5x5? How's the mic sounding?
How's the video?
Crackly. The video seems to be not jerky, so that's nice.
Hello and thank you to our friend Peter Laycock, who tells me, and I don't know if he's joking, but I'm gonna make it. If he's joking, I'm gonna make him regret it. He says his friends call him Buster. Well, I guess what I'm calling Peter Laycock from now on. Thank you, Buster. Thanks for your continued support, and also. Roy Starman contributed a super chat contribution before we got started.
Is that $10?
Yeah. $10. He says, hello, everybody. It's 50 degrees Fahrenheit and blustery in New Mexico today. And the 50-pound contribution from Buster.
Yeah.
He says, good evening, Kerry, and everyone in the chat from Bonnie, Scotland, where the temperature in Edinburgh is 57 degrees Fahrenheit, which is
comfortable, yeah.
47 degrees Celsius. 57's a little chilly.
Yeah.
I could go out in 57 without a jacket for about maybe a half hour.
A minute? Yeah, okay.
No, well, maybe. Yeah. You know what? It depends on...
the humidity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And whether or not it's windy. If it's windy, forget it. But, thanks to Peter Laycock, Buster, for your contribution, and Roy Starman. You guys rock. And today we are going to do my second 12th gen build. Ooh. Mm-hmm. Oh, $10 just came in via super chat from the Greek. Thank you, the Greek. You guys rock. So we did a 12th gen build. We did a 12600k that pretty much immediately sold. Okay. A gentleman who I built a computer for called me up. He said, has anybody bought that 12th gen? I said, no. And he goes, well, I really want it. I said, I just built you a computer. He goes, I know, but something's drawing me to the 12th gen. I have to have a 12th gen. I go, but it's not an i9, it's a mid-range. I don't care. I have to have it. So that's marketing at its best. I said, great, wonderful. Good. And I shipped it off to him. So I didn't have much time to really test it. Mm-hmm. So today we've got a 12900K. I've been waiting for the price to go below $500. And I thought when the 13th gen came out that this would fall. And it went to $499. Today I think it's back up to $509 on Amazon. So I'm really surprised at how that's holding its value. The 13900K is like $650. It's a lot of money.
Okay.
And these high-end chips, they will run hot when pushed. So I want to run an experiment today using a Scythe Mugen 5. In theory, the Scythe Mugen 5 should not be enough to cool this 12900K during an intensive processing task over so many minutes, which we'll figure out how many minutes.
Okay.
But most people don't generally use their computer that way, and most computers you would buy pre-built at the store wouldn't survive the Prime 95 test that I hold as a standard to my builds. So I'm going to see what happens. I just want to know what happens. I have a 13th gen chip and another Z690 motherboard coming today. If it arrives during the broadcast, then that'll be a great opportunity to show how you have to flash the BIOS on the board and how that's done if you don't have a 12th gen chip to make it 13th gen compatible.
But that you have to use DDR5.
No.
Correct? No?
No. So with the 13th gen, it's backwards compatible with 12th gen. They're both socket 1700.
Okay.
So you won't get DDR5 support. The Z690 we have here, they do sell the 600 series boards in either DDR4 or DDR5, not both. It's not like the old days when they were switching from DDR3 to DDR4.
Okay.
Some motherboards allowed you to use one or the other. These days, it's going to be the last sort of go for DDR4 on new motherboards. You could fully expect new motherboards coming out from this point forward for the latest Intel and AMD processors to be DDR5 only. DDR5 is, of course, superior to DDR4, but not twice as superior, but it is twice the price. As it grows in popularity and manufacturing prices go down through the power of scale, we'll all be using DDR5 eventually, maybe next year. So I don't want to spend the extra money for DDR5. So if we put a 13th gen chip into instead of a 700 series board, a 600 series board, what do we lose? Well, I thought, just off the top of my head, we would lose PCIe Gen 5. But actually, this board says it's PCIe Gen 5 on the 600 series, so I guess we're good on PCIe Gen 5. There are no Gen 5 NVMe drives out yet, so each generation doubles the performance. So if you're looking at, say, a top speed of 3,600 megabytes per second on Gen 3, double that to about 7,200 or 7,000 on Gen 4, double that again to somewhere around 12 to 14,000 on Gen 5 whenever, usually the solid state drives come out first. Now it's the other way around. Okay. So that's coming. As a result, prices on Gen 3 solid state drives are very low, very, very attractive prices. And most people won't see the difference between 3,600 megabytes per second and 12,000 megabytes per second unless you are an extreme PC user, which I know there are several of you out there, but don't kid yourself. You are the exception. And to those people, there's nothing I'm going to tell them they don't already know, right? But for everybody else, I don't necessarily think it's a good idea or worthwhile, unless you're flush with cash, to get these faster storage drives just because of the benchmarks. However, that being said, I did want to test the high-end Gen 4 model of performance drives from Western Digital, the Western Digital Black 850X series. This is a 4 terabyte drive. And the Seagate FireCuda 530. Now, I thought this drive was slower than this drive, but it turns out I think I was confusing the 850 versus the 850X. This is actually the faster of the two drives in most cases. And we're not going to use this one today because this is an empty box. I've got another one coming, but it won't be here till next month. This is a 4 terabyte Seagate FireCuda 530. They're about $600.
Oh.
Yeah, they're pricey. And I didn't have good performance results with it when I initially tested it, so I want to give that another go. Eventually, what we'll do with this board is it'll go into that big robot's foot computer, which currently has a 10850 in it, I think, 10850K. That whole board processor, that'll all come out.
Okay.
And then this will go into it, and it's going to utilize the liquid cooler that's already on it. So the cooler we're using today is just for demonstration purposes, out of curiosity. If you wanted to save money on your cooler, which would be weird to spend top dollar for the latest processor and then try and bargain your way through cooling. But what should we expect if we were to do that, right? And then, of course, for the RAM, I still have some of this G.Skill Trident Royal Z RAM. That's the silver RAM with the crystal RGB on top.
32 or 64?
Those are all 32 gig kits. They do sell a 128 gig kit, which is 4 sticks of 32 each. And that's at Amazon for, is it $400? It's expensive. And when you add that much RAM to a consumer-based computer, in 2022, you might end up with programs that don't work right. They just don't know what to do with that much memory. So even though you can do it, doesn't necessarily mean you should. And it's very, very expensive. So unused RAM is wasted RAM. If you're only using 32 gig, having 64 or 128 provides no benefit to you.
So do you have this currently in Robot's Foot or no? You have a different brand? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I believe that's in Robot. It's been a while. It's in another room and it's covered up.
Yeah.
But Robot's Foot does have that big liquid cooler on it, which will be ideal for this. So we're not gonna put this in a case today. We're gonna just build it with that RAM, this storage, this cooler, and of course the flagship 12900K processor. If while we're doing this, the 13th gen chip shows up, it's showing up also with another motherboard. This motherboard does not. This motherboard does have built-in Wi-Fi. This is the Z690 UDAX that takes DDR4 from GIGABYTE, and it's $199 for the board. So if you were to buy a cheaper board and add the Wi-Fi to it, you're probably still going to be around $199. I don't normally like built-in Wi-Fi, only because Wi-Fi keeps evolving quite rapidly. And it's not like you're going to desolder the Wi-Fi chip and replace it, right? The best you could do is disable the Wi-Fi in the BIOS and add a plug-in Wi-Fi card, say 4 years from now, and the Wi-Fi standards, Wi-Fi 7 or Wi-Fi 8. So much is going on. The European Union, I suppose, has told Apple you can no longer have proprietary lightning connectors because it's adding to waste in the landfill. You must use USB-C on all your devices by European law. Apple fought that and said, well, we can't ensure quality because we have higher standards, and it means our customers may not have the experience that they currently have. But USB-C has standards too. And
they lost, I heard.
They did lose.
So the phones next year,
it was a weak argument.
The phones next year will be USB Type-C.
It's not like Apple doesn't use USB Type-C anyway. They just don't use it on the iPhone.
Yeah.
They've been offering it on, like laptops and tablets. So I'm delighted at the reasoning, right? Because it's just adding e-waste. You got to have USB Type-C for everything but your iPhone. So when you travel, it's one more thing you got to bring with you. It's one more source of a headache. And it's just interesting that they're able to force that onto a company. I'm surprised they have that ability to tell a company what their standards are going to be. But I understand the reasoning, and of course Apple doesn't like it one bit. But hopefully the Apple users will appreciate the ubiquity of being able to not just get your cables from Apple or Apple licensed manufacturers, which are far more money. But there are some USB-C cables out there that are not made to the standard.
Right.
And Apple ensures that won't happen with their connector because these companies have to be approved. So besides that, there are, I believe, third-party manufacturers unauthorized making lightning cables anyway. I just thought it was an interesting news item.
I'm still using a flip phone, so it doesn't apply to me.
Still using the BlackBerry. Let's see what we're missing in the chat here before we get started. Quick hello to everybody joining us. Fritzer with a $10 contribution says, once again, another great informative video. Well, thank you, Fritzer. Also, if you look in today's video notes, you'll see links to all the parts we're using today, as well as a link to the little SanDisk Extreme. It's like a little rectangular external USB SSD that's super high performance. 2 terabytes. How much do you think 2 terabytes of external SSD USB high performance?
You once used to say, is it a $90 a terabyte?
$100.
$100 a terabyte, so 200 if it's that high end, maybe 225.
And it's on sale, so what would you guess the sale price is today at Amazon?
180.
$149. $149.99 free shipping.
Bargain.
And it's I would put it in the same class, the SanDisk Extreme external SSD with the Western Digital Passport SSD and the Samsung T7 and T7 Extreme. They're all right around a little over $200. They're super fast and they don't slow down when you're copying a ton of data. Most of these drives, they start to warm up and the performance gets eventually and oftentimes slower than a mechanical hard drive. So if you're going to copy 2 terabytes of data in one go to this 2 terabyte external storage, and that storage is super fast for the first, say, couple hundred gigs, then all of a sudden it gets slower, 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 slower. And then let's say we did a race with a mechanical hard drive. And the hard drive starts off slow, but it maintains the slow speed consistently throughout the entire copy, making it the clear winner by hours over many of these inexpensive external solid-state drives. Tortoise and hare kind of a story here. For me, time is money. I'm billing a customer by the hour, and if I've got to copy data and copy it back, I have nothing to do while that's happening if I'm on location. So I need it to go quickly. The faster it goes, the sooner I can get to the next customer, the less it costs the current customer. I make up the money in quantity.
Volume,
exactly. So scale.
Yeah.
Chris Garrett just contributed $10 via Super Chat. He says, hello, Kerry. Hope you and Mitch are doing good. I bet you're glad it's cooler.
Oh, yeah. Fired up the motorcycle yesterday. Took a Fountain Hills run. Very nice to not be in the heat.
Do you pant like a dog?
No.
Probably not good on a motorcycle.
No, yeah.
Might swallow a lot of bugs that way.
Yeah. Well, and when the weather's nice, I don't use a full face. I use a half helmet and goggles. Goggles over my glasses. Say that faster. Goggles over my glasses. So it's matching. So very nice ride.
All right. I think we are ready to start. Should we get Camera Girl to work? Just kind of looking through the chat. Peter Laycock says, I was a wee fatty as a brain at nursery when they thought I would bust, and they called me Buster. My friends all call me Buster.
When he was just a nipper, yeah.
All right.
Just a wee lad.
I'm surprised he hasn't mentioned that in the years that we've known each other. He's never mentioned that. So I'm calling him Buster from now on.
Not Keaton. No, just Buster. Yeah.
And hello, Ron Varnish, Jason Willis, John Paul Bacon. Catherine Anna Hauserman joins us all the way from Colombia. There's Mats Olof Rickardson. I believe Mats Olof joins us from Sweden. I always get this wrong. I think is it Sweden? It's always good to see him in the chat, and of course all of our friends in blue and all the members that support the channel today. So appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for spending your Friday with us, and let's have some fun.
Yeah.
Let's do some building. We're going to switch over to camera 3. And that is the handheld close-up camera. So hopefully we'll get you some good shots today, or we'll fire the camera girl. No pressure.
Hey.
No talk back. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Click.
Why didn't it switch? Oh, say click again.
Click. Thank you.
That worked. There's a little bit of a color shift there, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say something.
I think we're on the wrong camera. I don't think that's camera 3. Move that camera. No, we're not on camera 3. I got to rename this camera because this is the second time. Oh no, I selected camera 2. I think my eyes are getting worse.
Yeah.
It is camera 3.
I'll get you a cane. All right, so
Let's go to camera 3 this time.
there you go. That's much nicer.
Okay. Wow, look at the color difference there.
Yeah. So here's our board. Can I open it? Can I? Like Christmas.
I don't know why you're asking me.
Yeah, okay.
I'm wondering why you haven't yet.
Oh, okay. Ooh.
I've had that sitting around here for a couple months, and that's
Have
the first
you?
time it's ever been opened. I'm glad there's a motherboard in there and not a brick. Be a little past the return policy on that one. Elko Stoffels in the chat says, man, I'm excited. Tomorrow I'm going to start on my new PC build. It's a Ryzen 9 7950X with an Asus ROG Crosshair X670E Hero motherboard with G.Skill Trident Z Neo RAM, RGB, 6,000 speed, 16 gigs times 2, so 32 gigs. Hey, that sounds like a really nice high-end build, and take your time, enjoy your build. I'm sure that's going to be a long-lasting computer. There are some issues with some games on these new Ryzen 7000 series. AMD's acknowledged it, and they're working on it. Typical for any new product. And it may not affect you. It just depends on the games you play. I'm assuming you play games. Sometimes getting the parts out of the packages is harder than actually putting the computer together. Oh no. No, that's your mess. That's your bed you made.
Okay.
There he is. There it is.
Beautiful.
Yeah, $199 for this board. You've got 4 RAM slots.
Now this says UD series. I'm an ultra deluxe.
Ultra durable, I think,
Ultra
is
durable.
what Gigabyte often likes to say. In fact, I think it's written right on the front of the box. If you move that motherboard back a little bit, slide it towards yourself, it says ultra durable right there on the box. It does advertise PCIe 5 on the box and DDR4.
And then
So I was wondering, when we put a 13th gen chip on a Series 600 motherboard designed for Gen 12, what do we lose? As I was saying, I thought we lost PCIe Gen 5. So I guess I wasn't paying attention. It's there. So that means we lose just DDR5 support, but then there are 12th gen boards that support DDR5 if you want to pay that extra money for the, double the money for the same amount of RAM.
and then we have two.
SATA 3,
Yep.
or I'm sorry, NVMe M.2 slots. Do you see the third one? Where do I normally put an NVMe drive, location-wise?
Oh, and then you have one.
There he is.
Yeah.
Now, because the motherboard has its own heatsink, we don't want to buy a solid-state drive that comes with a heatsink because it might be so tall
Okay.
that if we were to put it here,
Yep.
a graphics card may not fully seat, meaning we'd have to move that over here. And these heatsinks don't really do much.
And will you get better performance on this one, or are they all the same? Or we're not sure.
They should be all the same. I'd have to look up the manual, and I'm sure the chat room will correct me if I'm wrong. My preference is going to always be to use this one first.
Okay.
Like I say, we have a heatsink here. If I were going to put a Gen 4 NVMe drive in either of these two slots, I'd probably want to get a heatsink for them.
Okay.
So that won't, certainly in this position, it won't interfere with the graphics card, but this position still could with the new 40 series cards. They're pretty thick and may inhibit the ability to fully seat that card. So this is mostly aesthetic, this heatsink.
Okay.
None of these heatsinks really do much. They'll bring it down a couple of degrees, but sometimes that's all you need.
We need a JS. Is that the number one?
Well, is that what you want to start? You want to put the NVMe drive in first? Boy. My drawer, I haven't opened this drawer in a while, and usually I know exactly where to go, but I've been a little out of touch lately with doing these videos, this kind of video.
How come that's not magnet?
Oh, is it not? Here, we can.
give it a few doodads.
You should be able to just, if we slide this thing on here, see if that works. If the screws are made of aluminum or brass, then they won't do anything with the magnet. So that's not working. That may be a captured screw. That may be the issue.
Oh,
I'm kind of curious now. Let's see.
we've got.
Oh, it's
okay.
definitely magnetized.
Oh, okay.
I just dipped this into a bowl of screws.
My favorite drink. Okay, we've got our thermal paste, or sticky there, pad.
So here's the
Careful open
FireCuda.
it.
Yeah, I opened this a couple videos ago.
600 beans. Jeez. But
I didn't pay $600 for
but
it.
4 terabytes, man.
Yeah, you can buy these up to, well, not this model, but they do sell 8 terabyte NVMe drives for around $1,300.
Ooh. No glare. Okay. 4 terabyte. That's a lot of storage. And you don't think we're going to get the performance? Where's our threads here? There's our notch there. Yeah. So
You'll see he puts that in on a bit of an angle, and he'll push it so that the little gold fingers on the end disappear. And now, well, the second question now is, do we have to screw this down or not? Sometimes with these heat sinks, by screwing down the heat sink, it holds this piece down. And the other thing is sometimes there's a little standoff that has to go on, otherwise it sits, it doesn't sit completely flat, and that means that the heat sink on top won't sit flush and it won't do much for cooling. So this time I will get my glasses and I just want to take a quick look. So yes, this does have a place for a screw. So we should have that screw that Mitch is pointing at here, that goes up here.
Oh.
That goes up here.
Yep.
This one is going to require a small screw.
In the box.
That should be in a bag in the box that we're sitting the motherboard on, and there should be 2 more identical bags with 2 more screws. And we want to take all those bags out right now, and we're going to put the screws in these unused ones, so the owner of this computer, whether that's me or a customer, a few years from now or whenever we want to add another, and if we want to add another M2, we don't have to go looking for these screws. They're very difficult to find. You can't generally go to a hardware store and find them. You can order them online and then wait a few days, but how frustrating would that be to postpone an upgrade that you were looking forward to because you don't have a 3-cent screw that they charge $2 for. So here we've got the bags I was describing, and each bag, I believe, has 1 screw. So certainly no waste of plastic there, right? Also in the box, we have the antenna for the built-in Wi-Fi. And you can always replace this antenna. If you want a larger antenna, you can go somewhere like Amazon and look for bigger antennas. And then we've got a couple SATA cables. And we have our owner's manual. And no driver DVD anymore. Hallelujah, good riddance. Nice to know ya.
Bye-bye.
And then let me get into the drawer. Are you going to take care of that? Scissors right there.
No. I can't even. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, it's super tiny, and just keep your fingers attached, please.
A 1.
I think you've done this a few times before.
With 3 of them, it reminds me. How many licks does it take to get to the bottom?
3.
3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. The world.
You got all 3 of those open?
The world may never know. Okay, so, okay.
So go ahead and
I'll bet that's
put all 3 of those in. Okay. Yeah, that should be.
Right here, right, boss? Right here. This one,
Yeah, don't make it super tight.
No.
Just snug it up, and that way we know where to find it when we need it in the future. They are super tiny. Gets real quiet when he works.
Keep my head from steaming or smoking. All right. And this one, okay, that goes. Oop, it jumped out. Oop, you jumped out on me. Very bad.
Yeah, make sure you stay seated into the socket.
And not the top one, because this is where the
that heat sink's going to slide in, and you're going to find
gotta,
your solid state drive is not going to be recognized if it's not in the connector. Which I hope makes sense.
2 cents. All right, yeah.
And again, you don't want to over tighten those. Just snug them up. That's all you need to do.
Boom. 4 terabytes. Beautiful.
Now, the heatsink for the M.2 here has plastic on it. And that's to keep this thermal pad free of any dust, debris, oils from your skin. Yeah. So if you're not using this, leave this tape on it to keep it clean. If it's dirty, it's still going to work. It just doesn't work as well, right?
So really only take it off now when you're ready
to install it. And if you leave the tape on, it could actually run hotter than without this on at all. So removing the tape, this is true of any heatsink. They usually do protect them from, what would be the word, contamination,
okay,
with some form of tape that has to come off. So I'll hand that back to you. Try to keep your fingers off of that tape or that thermal pad.
In the notchy?
Again, if you touch it by mistake, it's not going to be the end of the world. It doesn't. So you contaminated it a little bit, it probably makes a microscopic difference in the cooling. The more you contaminate it, the larger the impact it'll have on its efficiency of cooling. So we just make it a good practice to keep it as clean as reasonably possible.
Don't over tighten, just give it a...
Are we having a focus issue there? It looks like you're focused on the word gigabyte and not... Usually, I think you can touch the screen where you want that to focus from time to time. But nice steady hand.
Yeah.
Right? Camera's nice and steady. All right, what do we do next? We've got our 4 terabyte Seagate FireCuda 530 installed. That was easy, right?
$600, but loveless. 4 terabytes.
Well, we'll see if it's worth it. We're going to get things fired up here.
RAM?
I wouldn't do the RAM yet because it kind of gets in the way of doing both the CPU and the heatsink, and you don't want to knock into it because you know the RAM's about this tall, and it's the connector that's holding it upright, super tiny.
Okay.
So the leverage, if you knock on it, could break the socket.
Yeah.
So I would say let's save the RAM.
You're going to do this because that
I'm going to do the CPU.
I know what that costs. Plus, I have to.
Well, you could just buy me another one. I'm okay with it. Now, I haven't used a 12900K ever. So here's our packaging. Got like a little tin that the CPU's inside. I guess the 13th gen has the same tin, but it's silver instead of gold.
Don't like it. Like the gold.
I don't know.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. No, that's a gold ticket. That's a gold wafer.
The gold reminds me of the 80s, like the tacky.
Okay.
Well, all of the 80s was tacky.
Yeah.
Parachute pants, neon colors, and...
But I never laughed so hard as you trying to open that hexagonal cube. It was the funniest thing.
I'm glad it brought humor. I'm glad my frustration brought you humor. The struggle is real. So we're going to cut right down this sticker. Oh, it's magnetic. Feel that.
Snuffy. Yeah, very snuffy. 2 of them, 2 dime-shaped magnets.
Oh, you're very observant, Padawan.
Yeah. Beautiful. And then by opening that, will it come out on its own? No, that's asking too much. There you go.
There it is. There it is.
You think it twists off or it just comes off?
I don't know. I haven't watched any videos on it. I would twist it and pull it at the same time.
Yeah. It was just a...
And there should be a package inside.
Am I on the wrong side? Of course I'm on the wrong side.
Yeah, the side that says Intel. I don't think the other side says Intel, does it? And that, ladies and gentlemen...
Don't know if they can read that, but...
That's all the money.
Whew. And this requires, or this has internal graphics, or it does not?
If there is a letter F in the model number of the Intel CPU, then it will require a graphics card. So in other words, if it was a 12900KF, then the F indicates no graphics. I don't like to buy a processor that has the letter F in it.
Okay, 12900.
Even if I was going to provide a graphics card to this machine, which I likely will, it's nice to have the fallback in diagnostics. And sometimes the KF version sometimes costs more to get less. It's very strange. Does the other side say Intel on it?
Does not.
All right, so the side that says Intel is the top.
I like it.
So let's see if we put that back in here. Sometimes putting things back in the box is tricky. So how did this go? Guess like this, and like this.
What are we playing, Jenga now? Okay.
Kind of.
Steady. All right.
Hey, look how easy that went back together. Okay, well, installing the CPU. Finally, AMD has also gone to an LGA or land grid array socket where the pins are no longer on the chip. This is good because anytime if you've ever tried to take a heatsink off of an AMD chip, quite often the chip rips right out of the socket. With an LGA socket, it's being held down by the socket frame, so you'll never have that problem removing a heatsink ever again, which could damage the socket and more than likely damage the chip with those old pins, and especially when you get more and more pins, they get more and more delicate. Now the pins are in the socket. So we've talked a lot about this in previous videos, and the socket's slightly different in that when we open up this side,
it opens this way.
Yeah, I guess we have to lift this up. And there are 1,700 little tiny, very, very delicate pins. I cannot express to you how simple this is and how simple it is to screw it up. So just a matter of taking your time, being patient. What we want to do is, if we take the processor here, see if I can show you the numbers on there. There's a little cutout in one of these corners. There it is, right there. So I can get a finger underneath that and lift this up. You notice we don't wear anti-static straps because we don't hold the parts by any of the circuitry, any of the raw components. As long as we hold all the parts, whether it's the motherboard, the CPU, the RAM, by their edges, if we were to have an electrostatic discharge, it just dissipates to the grounded areas. If you want to wear an anti-static strap, it doesn't hurt anything. But if you simply follow good handling practices...
Where's our gold triangle? Over here or no?
Oh, well, that's a good question. I see a little triangle right there. I don't know how well the camera's going to pick that up. It is super, super tiny. So what I usually do is I look at the writing on the chip and face that writing this way.
Gotcha.
So that there's other writing on the board that also faces that way. When the board is sitting in the case, say it's a tower case in most cases, the writing will be right side up. It won't be sideways or upside down. At least on Intel chips on ATX and micro ATX motherboards. With mini ITX boards, might be different. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just gently, there's a little edge around the frame of the socket, and I want to just find a corner of that edge. Be very careful. You don't want to touch or make contact with any of those pins. So we just want to line that and then gently lower it and let it go, let it fall into place. Now, I'm not fully seated, and I don't know how well the camera's picking that up, but this chip is not fully seated, so we don't want to close this down yet.
No.
What I want to do is grab the edges,
edges
again, and I'm just going to give it a little light twist, and you see it fell.
Into place.
Gently fell. Now, it's still sitting above those pins, like just a hair away.
Okay.
And when we close the socket down, it's going to push down on that chip and squish it to make contacts between those pins and those little dots or landings that are on the other side of this chip.
Okay.
And again, we want to keep the surface of the chip where the heat sink's going to go, free of any debris, oils from the skin, dust. So once we put this chip in, we want to go ahead and, I'm going to pop this cover off by hand in this case. You need to keep the cover, and it explains why.
We'll put it in the box.
And then we'll go ahead and lower this lid here, and then you'll see there's a little bent piece of metal that's going to push down on that end. As I push the lever down, there's going to be a lot of pressure now. This lever was super loose a minute, you know.
Yeah. Don't panic. That's normal.
Yeah.
To get that.
You need some
muscle.
A little bit of muscle here. and it's going to resist, and you're going to fight against that resistance. You're going to see even this lever may bow, and you're going to just latch that right under there. And what that's doing is it's applying an equal amount of pressure. You see there's a piece of metal that extends here and here, and then the frame itself here and here. So it's applying equal pressure. This is critical in every side. Okay. You'll also see the little arrow that we mentioned that was on the chip. It's also on the edge of the frame of the socket. Yep. If that helps you to determine the direction. Yep. Do not force it. If you want to, you can buy these small suction cups at Amazon. Like I got this little package of them here. They're in my Amazon store with a link. And you can use a suction cup to help install or remove the chip. These are very inexpensive, and they don't leave any residue behind. You can certainly, push that on, and you don't have to clean the CPU afterwards. And to get this off, I would just slide it until it breaks suction. So that's just a little cheat that might help you out if you're super nervous, like some of us are, about that part of it. If you do bend those pins, that is not a warranty problem. That's a problem you caused, and you're basically out of a motherboard. I've seen some people send motherboards back to Amazon where they've damaged the pins, and Amazon has taken them back, and then they've resold them. And if you watch my videos where I'm buying some used Amazon motherboards, we had a couple where even the plastic cover wasn't put back on. So even if the pins weren't damaged when it was sent in, they were probably damaged in the shipping one way or the other. I always make sure if I'm buying a used motherboard from Amazon that it comes from Amazon warehouse and not a third-party seller. That's to avoid any unexpected restocking fees or rejections in return. So I don't recommend buying anything with your computer used unless you're very familiar with how to debug and translate things for testing and understanding what to look for with regards to potential damage or problems versus, somebody who's inexperienced might have just done something wrong and there was nothing wrong with the used part. So if you're not comfortable with technology and you don't want to gamble, don't buy used parts for your computer. If you've been doing it a long time, or if you're more technically inclined and you watch these videos because you find it entertaining, and maybe you pick up a little trick I show, but for the most part, 99% of what I talk about you already know. You're the kind of person that could clearly buy the used equipment and know how to properly know the difference between something being damaged and a mistake made. But for the majority of you, especially a first-time builder, it's not worth the price savings to take that risk. And if the part is bad, you might work with it a long time before you're convinced it's not you, and it delays your build from getting done. All for what, a $20 or $30 savings on a $600 to $1,200 build? It seems silly to me, but do set the right expectations on the decisions you make. It's not all the same and equal. It costs less because there's more risk involved, and it may require more technical skill when you're buying used equipment. So that being said, our processor is installed. Our solid state drive is installed. I see Marty Yoel joins us all the way from Miami. Hey, Marty, good to see you. He just contributed $10. He says, hi, all you three and the chat.
I bet the weather's nice down there.
In Florida? Never.
Never? No.
No. Minus a hurricane now and again.
Now, once you put the cooler on, it'll still be easy to install our 2 RAM slots?
Yes, because the Mugen 5 cooler is going to essentially go over these capacitors, and it doesn't extend beyond that. Okay. So it's going to give us plenty of room. We're going to use the black slots first. When we have 2 RAM modules, you either need to use the 2 black ones or the 2 silver slots. If you fail to do that, it'll still work, and you'll still get the same amount of memory, but it will not be in what's called dual channel mode. And what that means is everything is going to run at approximately half the performance that it's capable of. And if it's a brand new build, you won't know the difference. It's going to be fast to you. You don't really have a point of reference other than your old system. So you won't know you built it wrong. It'll just work, and you'll be blissfully ignorant that it could be running even better. So with some motherboards, they will specify using one pair of sockets over another pair. It's in your owner's manual. Asus and ASRock like to do that. GIGABYTE more or less just says use one or the other, but whatever slot you choose, skip a slot. Don't put them side by side. If we're going to put 4 RAM modules in here, then if we bought them in pairs, they are tested in pairs. So I wouldn't just pop them in willy-nilly. I would put one pair in the gray and one pair in the black specifically, because that's how they're tested. Mm-hmm. In theory, you should be able to pop the RAM in. Say I had 2 kits, and I should be able to put, you know, RAM modules 1 and 2 here, and then 3 and 4 from another kit here, crossing them. It should still work. However, it's really no extra effort to do it the right way and just not even have that risk. Why do that? But it's your choice. You certainly can, and it should just work fine. On the other hand, it will always work fine if you do it the right way, unless something's physically wrong with the RAM or socket or you didn't fully seat them. All right, so with that done, we can start to work on our cooler. As I mentioned, this will be replaced with a liquid cooler, which is much more appropriate for an i9 CPU, just overall and in general. There's no exception here or in the history of the 9th, 10th, 11th gen i9s. They do run hot because they're super fast, high performance, and just like a race cars run very, very hot.
Okay, we have our fan. We have our box of doodads, I guess, right? Is that
installation materials, screws, brackets, even a screwdriver is in this box. And the cooler itself, the heatsink, which will also have tape on the bottom of it to keep it clean. That's you see this, you see these little tabs there? Yeah. And then do the other side. These coolers are about $65 for the black edition, a little cheaper if you're okay with silver. Yeah. There it is.
Tape on it.
And go ahead and give that the full 360 there for our viewers at home, and I'll put this stuff away. The good thing about an air cooler is
a lot of heat pipes.
They're good for life of the machine. As a liquid cooler has to be replaced every few years. The liquid itself deteriorates. The pumps eventually fail. And it's just something you should know when you're making that purchasing decision.
And it's interesting how for the life of me, I could never figure out why, you know, you had a short end here and a long end here. This end's longer, but I think you've told me why. They've got the...
Well, imagine...
They're not both equal.
Why do you suppose that is? And you kind of hinted at it when you asked if the RAM would fit.
Yeah, because it goes on... Let's see. There's the that, and you want it to go this way, so it must go on...
Where would the fan go on the heatsink? Look at the other side. Do you see a difference between the two sides?
Oh yeah, this has got...
No, the fins are the same on both sides.
Okay.
But look at you were pointing out earlier how
the bracket?
There's a screw
yeah.
on this bracket underneath.
Short.
That's underneath the heatsink, and that screw is not underneath. It's free.
Right.
So the fan is going to go on that side.
Okay.
And the fan is going to blow air through the heatsink, so the air movement is going to move the way you're holding it towards you. So knowing that, where is the fan on the case typically located on most cases? Usually around the I/O ports, right?
Yeah.
So in other words, there would be a fan right about here on your case.
Yep.
And it's going to be moving air away from you.
Oh, yeah, out of the back, yeah.
All right. So if you turn that 180 degrees from the way you have it and simply rest it gently on top of the CPU just to picture this, go ahead and set it down. We don't have the brackets in, so there's nothing to attach it to, but that's the orientation that you're looking for. You want the screw that sticks out, I'm going to spin this around, you want the screw that sticks out to be towards your RAM
Gotcha.
sockets. This is going to be where your fan goes. It's possible that you can buy an external secondary fan and move the air, in the same direction. However, with this motherboard, this would likely get in the way. And while you could raise the fan up to avoid this, you need a deep enough case for that clearance.
Right.
And I don't recommend a secondary fan. It's maybe on this particular configuration it'll help, but on most it won't. And this will have a liquid cooler on it in its final resting place, its final home. So that is the orientation. You can kind of let the logo guide you, but if you're not familiar with the logo, it may look right either way to you, right? Yeah. So, but essentially, let the screws guide you. The screw that is external and extended goes towards the RAM. As long as you remember that,
gotcha.
Everything else should fall into place.
And watch how easy this is to install. Boy, this is easy.
I'm going to go ahead and take this off here, and we'll set it aside. There is tape on the bottom of this, and we're not going to remove that. I wouldn't call it tape. It's like a plastic. What is that?
Cover? I mean,
it's just like a little protective plastic, and we'll remove that protective plastic only when we're just about to install.
Here's a beautifully included screwdriver that you can hang on to.
Magnetized. What's rattling around in here?
The instructions. We don't need any instructions.
Well, let's get them out of there because they'll go in the motherboard box for the owner of the computer. And then all of this stuff is all going into the recycle bin, all this extra packing material. So let me get this out of the way. We have a relatively small workbench here, so we run out of room quickly. Always keep your work area free and clear to avoid dropping things or losing things. Yeah, keep it easy. Now, in the bag that came with the heatsink, we've got a bunch of different screws and mounting brackets because this is compatible with multiple AMD chips, multiple Intel chips. They don't know which chip you bought. And different sockets, whether it's an AM4 socket, whether it's a socket 1700. I don't know what they're doing for AM5 yet. I don't know. I haven't done anything with AM5, so I don't know if the heatsink mounting locations are different yet. I'm sure somebody in the chat probably knows. If there is a difference, they being Scythe, will likely come out with a revision D, right? So what they've done here with revision C is the heatsink and everything's the same, but they've changed the mounting bracket now. Out of the box, it's socket 1700 ready. You don't have to change anything. Okay. All you have to do is slide that in behind the CPU.
And do you do the notches on the vertical or on the?
It is the same. Whether you were to install that the way you're doing it, or you flipped it upside down, it's still exactly the same.
I like the notches this way. Yeah. Now you want
they're exactly the same either way.
Okay. Now you want to hold it when you set it back down, otherwise it'll.
Yeah, you don't want it to fall out on you.
It'll bounce out. Now you can always grab one of these snoots.
Yep, and just set it down. All right. Now, go ahead and open this bag, and let's see what's in this bag, and we'll show the camera. We'll show the people at home. So what we need for a socket 1700 are those black plastic standoffs there, or spacers. You need 4 of those. Oh. Now one side of those black plastic spacers has a rubberized bottom to it. That is the bottom. That's the part that's going to contact the motherboard. So grab the one you've got there and slide it over one of the screws and push it down. You will feel some resistance all the way. And repeat that with the remaining, with the rubber side against the motherboard. That's also going to hold that back plate in for us. It's not going to fall out on its own anymore for the rest of this process. Okay, now the next step will be to put the brackets on. So in this bag here, we're not done with these parts yet. We have
straights and parentheses.
So those parentheses
are AMD.
Those are correct. That's AMD. So we're not going to use those.
Not gonna
We're going to
use
take
those.
these out of the equation.
Put 'em
You
back
see
in.
these long screws? Those are for AMD. We're going to take all 4 of those. We don't need those. And of the remaining, you see these standoffs? These are like for high-end X series Intel processors. So we're going to take those. This is all for different processors that we don't have. And I'm just going to put them in this big bag here. Now, we've already gotten rid of 1 set of brackets. We still have 2 more sets of brackets. The brackets that have all the multiple holes, that's your socket 1151, 1150, 1155, 1156.
Okay.
Even socket 1200 will use these brackets for Intel.
Okay. Don't need
Only socket 1700, only 12th and 13th gen will use those brackets for socket 1700.
Okay.
So these are going to go on. You see there's like a dip here? That is so it doesn't collide. You see these capacitors
Oh yeah.
here? You want to put these brackets on in the same orientation as this lever. So with the dip, we're just going to put that there, and you can see there's some clearance here allowed for the capacitors underneath that.
So the dip is up.
And then these little standoffs, or these aren't standoffs, these are thumb screws. Go ahead and just tighten those down. And here's the Mugen 5 screwdriver, but I would start them by hand.
Otherwise you'll cross thread.
You could cross thread, but it might be difficult to even start it. So go ahead and start them manually, and then we'll tighten them down with the included screwdriver.
You want to enjoy your build. Don't rush. Everyone wants to rush to get it.
They're anxious.
To get it fired up and working, but it's fun to actually build. So take your time, enjoy it, because when you're done, boy, are you going to want to build another one
Exactly.
right away.
Savor
it.
Yeah. Chew your food, you know?
So if it's an 8-year build, you don't really need another one unless you're helping a friend or something like that.
Or you're just trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah,
That's a big thing in computers. Just people that don't need it, but they want it just because. And if you can afford that, have at it.
Now, you don't want to cinch these down too much, but you certainly want them.
Oh, you want them tight.
Okay.
Yep.
Then here, you do it.
You want me to double check your work?
Yeah, I don't want to crack the board. $200 board, yeah.
Well, you'd likely not crack the board. What would happen is you would likely break the screw, and then the thumb screw will come off with the screw embedded in it.
Okay.
And then you'd have to contact the manufacturer and ask nicely and see if they'll send you a replacement set for free, but it will postpone your completion of your build by probably 1 to 2 weeks waiting for that to arrive. Something that simple. So I just want to make these tight, but I don't want to make them too tight.
Just to where the screwdriver kind of
When it's really getting hard to turn, stop. Now we can apply our thermal compound. Everything else we have here, this final bag, this has the little wire hangers that is going to hold the fan on, and it gives you an extra set for, as I previously mentioned, adding a second fan for a push-pull configuration, which I just think it's a complete waste of money in most cases. And if you require 2 fans, maybe you should consider a heatsink like an Noctua, what's it called, a D15?
And what would a second fan? Be honest. I mean, would it lower it 2 extra degrees?
It depends
5
on the
extra
chip.
degrees? It depends on the chip.
So if the Mugen 5 is doing well on its own, doing any better doesn't improve anything. I mean, sure, you get lower temps, but your system isn't going to run any faster. It's not going to run any more reliably, as long as it's within its operational. Like if your car is running 170 degrees or 180 degrees or 190 degrees, you're essentially getting exactly the same performance, mileage. You're within your operational temperature range. So only if you're exceeding the operational temperature range should you be concerned. So on a chip like this, we're at the 12900K, it's going to run very, very hot if we push the machine hard, and we do that often. If that's the case, you should be going with a liquid cooler. If you're a regular user, primarily using the machine for email, web browsing, paying bills, some game playing on the side, not like a full-time, spending 6 hours a day gaming, with some exceptions, depending on the game, you'd be much better off with a liquid cooler if you're really serious about that. But otherwise, just, running a regular air cooler. Your PS5 has an air cooler, your Xbox has an air cooler. So some people think they can outsmart the system by opening their wallet and spending more money. It's a great flex. Psychologically, it's very rewarding for those people that get the dopamine release from that sort of thrill. But for the vast majority of us, we don't care about stuff like that. And there's no sense, in my opinion, spending money you don't need to spend to buy hardware you don't need to buy, and that hardware has a limited life compared to, say, an air cooler, which is good for life of the hardware. The cooler's not good for your life, but rather good for the life of the machine. Whereas a liquid cooler, in general, about every 4 to 6 years, you'll likely have to replace it, making that 5 years on average, for numerous reasons that I previously discussed. If you were to put a liquid cooler, like a massive liquid cooler, on a very low-end chip, it won't make that chip run any better. So if you're not solving a problem, but you're spending the money, it's like you're doing an unnecessary repair and spending money you don't need to spend. And that's entirely each person's decision to decide for themselves. I default to the masses. Being a computer service technician for over 30 years, my fingers are on the pulse of the end user and their misconceptions. A lot of videos, most videos here on YouTube, are made by enthusiasts. Regardless of the topic, there are very few professionals compared to enthusiasts. And if you appreciate expertise from somebody who is a proven expert in their field versus an enthusiast who's just very excited, do consider the weight of what information is being shared based on who that information is coming from. And of course, your own personal feelings. You might find somebody who's an enthusiast to be more likable, so you might tend to lean in more to what they say is more valuable. And of course, that's entirely your decision, and not that the enthusiasts necessarily give out false information. And I'm also not saying that experts don't make mistakes and give out false information. But I will say that an expert in any industry that is held accountable and liable for the work they do for a client is under a lot more stress, is under a lot more pressure than what you're doing for yourself at home. And so I wouldn't want to oversell a customer hardware they didn't need, because I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me. And I want to treat my audience as though you were my customers and give you the same advice that I would give you if we were having a consultation on what parts to buy. And it all is based on what your expectations are and what your budget is. There is no right solution for everybody universally. We can't throw a blanket over that. If we want to throw a blanket, we go to Apple. That's what Apple does. It's like treating people like cattle, not as individuals. You're just all the same. So the benefit of the PC is the ability to express yourself, whether it's through the aesthetics of the build or to meet the unique needs that benefit you based on how you use your computer. Whether you're using that in a career, you could be a day trader, you could be an accountant, you could be a dentist, you could be whatever you are. Typically a computer's involved in whatever your career is. And your career may be very data intense. You might require wireless, you might want to put more money into the performance of the data transferring than in the CPU. Or if you're a gamer and that's more important to you, then you might want to put more money into the graphics card. right? Or into large storage, like a 20 terabyte hard drive, because the games get bigger and bigger and bigger. The idea is that you have the ability to customize your build to meet your budget and your needs that are unique to you and only to you. So it's very difficult to get advice online unless somebody really knows you or will spend about an hour to an hour and a half on average to fully understand you, your expectations, how you're going to use the machine, how you might use the machine in the future. You know, is it something you want to be portable so you can take it to LAN gaming events, if that even still happens since, I don't know, since the pandemic? Or you might want a system that you're going to constantly want to add stuff to, so you want a bigger case that's easier to work on. You might want a lot of RGB, you might want zero RGB, you might want to overclock, you might want a liquid cooler, you might want a lot of storage, you might want a lot of RAM. The possibilities go on and on and on, and me just mentioning those possibilities, you see how long that took? Without answers. Because when I get the answers, I have follow-up questions. So, the glove?
Yep.
It's been a while, Mitch.
I'm old.
The glove still fits.
Yeah. And here's our Scythe thermal compound.
What'd you say, I'm old?
Yeah. But don't tell anybody. Okay.
All right. So this thermal compound comes with the Scythe Mugen 5, and you'll see they're very generous with it.
You might get 2 builds out of that.
You might get 3. Yeah. Versus some other coolers, they give you like a little tear package that barely has enough and doesn't allow for mistakes. I don't think that in my experience, that the thermal material really makes any difference, whether you're buying expensive, high-end thermal material. It's mostly just marketing that you're paying for. They have convinced you. I would suggest, if you're one of those people, do your own tests so you can see with your own eyes what the true difference is between basic thermal material and ultra expensive thermal material. Run your tests. And when you see the price difference of how much the expensive thermal material is versus if there's any improvement, only you can decide if that was worth that price. For me, it's so minimal, I wouldn't waste my time or my money on it. And I would say as much, and I do, to my clients. This is a little stiff. I think the cold weather has made it.
Oh boy.
There it goes. So what I like to do, if you've not watched my videos before, is I grab a nitrile glove, powder-free, non-sterile, 3/7" thick, 3 mils, and I like to finger paint this on. That way I ensure full IHS coverage. And the internal heat spreader, the IHS, is this metal top to the CPU. It gets very, very hot, and there's chips under all of it.
And you don't want too much where it's splooshing out.
It's messy.
The sides, it's messy, but you don't want to skimp.
You don't want too much, you don't want too little. It's easy to do too little.
Yeah.
It's pretty difficult to do too much as far as it making a difference in cooling.
Yeah.
And I tap on it. You see how I'm tapping on it? And that creates these little hills and valleys.
That was just about the size of a grain of rice. Almost, maybe a little more. Yeah.
What kind of rice? Like long grain rice, brown
long,
rice?
Long grain.
Well, I'd say more like
a pea?
3/4 of a pea, maybe.
Okay.
But depends on the CPU. Some CPUs are larger.
Yep.
But in general, what you want to do is treat this like a paint job, that you want to have the entire surface covered. I don't want to see any silver.
Right.
And I don't want it just on there barely. I want enough that I can tap on it, tack it up. So when we squish the metal heatsink down on top of it, it can still squish down and squeeze out, any air bubbles and such. By using the glove, if I had put too much on, I can use a clean finger and just tap on it. It comes off on the finger, and use another finger and tap on it until I remove the excess. And then when I'm done, I can turn the glove inside out when I take it off. The problem with the thermal material is once it gets on your skin, it's probably going to be on there for 2 or 3 days. Same goes with your furniture. So be
tough to get off on a shirt.
Oh yeah. Well, it should wash out. However, I guess it depends on the material of the shirt.
Keyword is should. All right.
Yeah. So best to just avoid that and we have plenty left over.
Yep.
So at least 2 more applications. Certainly no problem with 1 more. If we were doing a thread ripper, which this heatsink is not designed for, It would probably take all of it because the Threadripper chip's like this big.
Do not forget to remove that.
Yeah, if you don't take this off, all of your obsession with cooling is sort of
Out the window.
yeah, it doesn't matter. So we can remove this plastic, and it's like a mirror finish there. And with the screw that sticks out, going towards the RAM,
Gotcha.
we're going to just gently set this on top. And using the included screwdriver rather, from Scythe, it's designed this way so it can go down this hole and come out underneath the heatsink if I turn this around, so camera girl can give you a shot of that. That's why they include the driver.
Yep.
And I'm sort of working on this blind, so I'm just feeling for when the screwdriver catches into the slots on the end of the screw. And I just have to make some minor adjustments, and I just want to get it started. If I tighten this side down too far, the other side lifts up, and you start to have a warpage where it's not going to tighten evenly. So I can't really tell.
And you don't want to cattywampus. It's a word, you know.
Cattywampus.
Cattywampus, yeah.
Let me try this side.
Okay.
Just get it started. Let me come back over here. Visually, I want to watch it and make sure that it's... There it goes. I'm feeling resistance now. And I just want to go back and forth and more or less tighten them up.
Kind of equal.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be precisely equal, but a few turns, switch sides. Go to the other side here, let's do it some more. Back over here. These will come to an absolute full stop. You'll know the screw will not turn. Do not try to turn it beyond that point or you may snap the screw off. Okay, so that's come to a complete and dead stop, as has that side.
And just like that, boom.
Now we can attach our fan. We want the power cable from the fan as close as possible to the source of power that it's going to be plugged into here. So if I put this fan on like this, or like this, or like this, you'll see that the cable has to run a longer route, and that means if the cable gets loose, it could get caught up in the fan itself. What we want to do is keep that run as short as possible. We want the air going through the heatsink, going this direction towards the back, which is the same direction the case will have likely a fan right there. And that fan will be facing this same direction, which is where these brackets are, is the side that the air is coming out. Where it's all open and you see the center spins, that's the side that, that's inhaling.
Intake,
Yeah, that's inhaling the air. This is exhaling the air. We want the air to exhale through the heatsink. It'll keep moving, assuming there's a case fan. Then the case fan also inhales that exhaled air here and exhales it out the back. So to do this, figure out which orientation we want. We want the cable coming out down here. And instead of putting screws into these holes, we use these little wire brackets. And we just push in the wire brackets like so on both sides. Some other manufacturers, their wire brackets just, they don't grip. And they just fall out super easy until you get them attached, which is maddening. I like how Scythe has narrowed these so that there's a little resistance. Okay, that fell somewhere. Got it. Nothing like this little thin black wire hanger falling on a black floor. So yeah, there's a little resistance here, so I got to push down. And what's great is now if I turn this upside down, those don't fall out.
Nice.
Now, I'm going to put the bottom of the fan frame against this screw right here. This screw right there. That's as low as I can get the fan. And then up at the top of this heatsink, the way Scythe has made this is really clever. There's a little notch that the fan fits.
Kind of rests in, yeah.
Right on top there. And then all I have to do is pull back on this middle, and it fits into the slots in the heatsink. We do that on both sides. The bracket came, a little wire came out of its hole here on the fan. I really, really need to get my glasses. Everything's black on black. It's very difficult to see. Goes right there, and then I just pull back. Oh, well, you're going to be able to see this, but I'm going to pull back right here. If you focus in here, I'm going to pull that back, and it just kind of locks into the groove here and through those fins right there. And the fan is now attached, oriented in the proper direction, and all I have to do now is to attach power to this gray CPU power connector. This is different from all the other connectors, and that the BIOS monitors it.
And in chat, don't keep this as a metal tie. You don't want metal tie. You want a nice plastic zip tie. So we'll take this off.
Do you know why?
It might touch something and
Short circuit.
it's
That's
a
right.
sound effect.
They get brittle over time. So even though it's not doing that today, within a couple of years, and especially in a dry climate, it may break apart. And when it breaks apart, it could fall behind the motherboard, create a short circuit, and now you have a dead computer, which would not be good. Just imagine it's been working fine for years, and then in one day, you might even see smoke come out, and you're like, uh-oh. So what I'm going to do is just take the excess.
Kind of fold it together.
You can see what's happening here. It's going to have to get a little, you're going to have to untwist this a bit. If you take your time and you do this nice and neat now, it's something you won't regret later. This makes life much easier in the future if you ever have to work on the system. And aesthetically, it's far more pleasing. These are just nylon zip ties, regular old cable ties. And it'll be almost impossible for me to do this once the case is mounted. Once the motherboard, rather, is mounted in the case, because the top of the lid of the case is right about here. So trying to get your hands in between that once it's installed in the case is going to be practically impossible without disassembling things. I'll get my angled wire cutters here and just cut these pigtails off.
Are these in your Amazon store?
They are, yeah. Those are Italian angled cutters. I really like them a lot.
Yeah, very nice for cutting off.
So now I can plug that power connector on. And then,
the RAM.
yeah, the RAM is all that remains. There you go.
Ooh.
Have at it.
64 gigs, or these two, go ahead, Mitch.
That was easy for you to say.
Two 32s? Yeah.
216
216.
for a total of 32. Because that is higher end RAM with a
Our Go
emphasis
Faster sticker,
on.
you must have a polishing because it's going to get very smudgy. It's already smudgy. Have you used this RAM before?
I don't know. Is the plastic still on it? Let's see. Let's bring it down so people at home can see. When the RAM is brand new out of the package, there's plastic, and you really need to take that plastic off.
Yep.
Yep.
On one of my builds, when Kerry kind of upgraded it, he noticed, Mitch, you didn't take the plastic off your
Yeah, it's going to run
off
hot.
your RAM.
It's going to run hot. So maybe not too hot, but hotter than it would run if you'd taken it off. It's just there to protect it in shipping. It's not intended for you to install with it on. Line up the RAM into the socket. I'm going to use the gray socket first. So we're going to line that up. It only goes in one direction. There's a notch that won't allow it to sit. Now hold on.
Yep.
And then I'm going to, now that I verified it's sitting correctly without any force, now I can use force and push down one side and the other side, and those retention levers will lock that RAM in place. Now, the second one. So it's a matter of finding that plastic. I usually just kind of feel up on the edge of it. And I heard it. I can hear it. It's there. And eventually I will. It's very difficult to see, isn't it? It's an easy mistake to not know it's on there.
Yeah, because it's on there.
But over time, it's going to yellow and it's going to look horrible. And again, it gets in the way of active, well, that's essentially passive cooling. It's just there to protect the item in shipping. That's the only reason they do that.
We're at 25%.
What's that?
25% on the battery.
Okay, well, we're just about done here, so that's good timing. So we're told 25% of battery life left on the close-up camera. So you see how that's going back and forth? That's because that notch is...
You're off.
Yeah, it's not aligned. That means I have to turn this 180 degrees, set it back down.
Into the notch, yep.
Okay, now it's firmly, not firmly, but rather it's correctly into the socket in the track. Now I can apply force and lock those down. So yeah, we got a microfiber cloth for cleaning it. We have a Go Faster sticker. Put the sticker on, make your computer go faster. And I guess we can switch back over to the main camera and we can get things wired up and turned on and do our power on self-test and see if things work.
Everybody loves the smoke test.
This smoke test, that's right, computer runs on smoke, and if you let the smoke out, for some reason, and this happened last time, we're not in 16:9 on that camera. Do you know why?
Can you tell?
Yeah, do you see the black bars on each side?
Is that 133?
I'm guessing it's been that way this whole time. I don't think it's 133. I don't know.
But yeah, 16:9.
You haven't noticed that the whole screen is not being used on the back of the camera?
Yeah.
I want to take a quick look because this happened last time.
Okay.
So there's clearly a setting on this close-up camera that has changed. And so there's a black bar here and here. This should be the whole screen. So why is it doing that? Oh, because we're in portrait mode. How did we get into portrait mode?
And Chad, if you hear me sniffing, I do apologize, but because the weather was such a dramatic drop in temperature, my sinuses doesn't like it. They don't like it.
We'll look at this
from hot to cold, so.
We'll look at this after. Something's
a
little misconfigured there. I wish I would have noticed that earlier, but it is what it is. Let's go back over to camera one. We'll give camera girl a break here. So boom. There's camera one. Thank you. I'll take that. Now, a lot of people go way overboard when it comes to what they think their computer's going to need for a power supply. Manufacturers love to sell an overkill power supply. There's much more profit in it. A system like this isn't going to use as much power as you're likely to believe it needs. If you have a graphics card, that's typically where you need more power. And again, if it's a high-end graphics card, then you likely need a high-end power supply. But anything other than the top shelf graphics cards, it's a couple hundred watts. When you get into the higher end, 2080s or 3080s, 3090s, you're looking about 750 watts. You rarely need to go over 750 watts unless you're getting the new, like a 3090 or a 40 series graphics card. Those are extreme and very expensive, and as such, you should expect to spend more on your power supply. Just because we have a high-end CPU does not automatically mean we need a high-end power supply. The power draw on this is likely going to be under 500 watts the way it's configured, well under. So a 500 watt power supply is all we need for testing.
We got two of them here.
Yeah, let's grab the one on the end there. Yeah. So this is the EVGA, just a $50 500 watt power supply. Now, I normally wouldn't use a power supply this inexpensive for a build this expensive.
Gotcha.
But not because of the wattage, but rather because of the build quality of the power supply itself. the more expensive, say there's a 500 or 600 watt titanium rated power supply or platinum rated, those are built with much tighter tolerances, and I would spend the extra money on a build that has a $500 processor just for that reason. We could run it off this power supply as long as we wanted to. If that's all I could afford at that time, it's fine. But I would make it, I would put it on my to-do list to replace it, to get something a little more precise in the future. But it also depends on where you live, how clean the power is, how often you lose power or have brownouts or outages. And let's go over here. And let me just step this over here. We're going to put the motherboard power connector on. That's the big 24-pin power connector that goes on there.
You should hear a click.
Yep, and then on the other side we have an 8-pin and a 4-pin additional. The 4-pin additional is optional. It's to provide additional power if you were to overclock. I don't support overclocking. It is very, very expensive and rife with blue screens and reboots until you figure out where the stable overclock is. No two CPUs are the same. Some are more tolerant than others. Each one requires a huge investment in both cooling, power, and time to repetitively go through the same cycling until you figure it all out. It is a complete and utter waste of time. The benefits versus the cost don't make any sense anymore. The gains that you can achieve are so minimal these days, especially off of a high-end processor. It just doesn't make any sense. It's for hobbyists who enjoy that activity. It's not really there are always exceptions, but overall it's more of a hobbyist activity done because those people find that to be fun. For the rest of us trying to earn a living, it is frustrating and expensive. So I don't support overclocking. That means if I sold a computer to a customer who wanted to overclock it, that's their, I can't tell them they can't. But if they had a problem and couldn't figure it out.
Did that say PCIe versus CPU?
You're right. This is the graphics card. Good eye. I would not give them support, nor would any manufacturer, unless there were arrangements made otherwise. In other words, you took something and you broke it, and now you want help on how to fix it. That fix is not going to be free, pretty much from any manufacturer, unless it was already overclocked and shipped to you, in which case it'll be supported as long as you don't change the overclock. All right. Once again, black connector, black cable, black motherboard. It's very hard to see. Imagine doing this in the case would be a little bit more difficult and more restrictive. There it is. Okay, now we need a power switch. And where's my power switch? So I have this little power switch I bought off Amazon. It's just a little power button with a light around it. I don't have to hook up the light, but it's not a big deal to hook it up. So this is going to go exactly where the power switch would go on the case and where the power light would go on the case. Since we're going to run this without a case, I could use a screwdriver and short it out, but that's not professional.
It's gauche.
Very amateur thing to do, which is fine. Nothing wrong with being an amateur, but
you're professional here.
Yeah, professionals and amateurs, there's differences. It involves time and risk, liability, accountability, and efficiency. Don't know why I should have put this connector on first, I suppose. It's the power LED, and then the actual switch goes beside that. I do have other videos that show this much closer up for those of you who are new here or would like to see that in more detail. What you got there? Power cable. Let's make sure the power supply is in the off position. It is. And we can plug that in.
Is this the HDMI that we'll plug in?
Yeah, there should be an HDMI down there, and there should be, I need the keyboard and the mouse.
Okay.
Isn't there an HDMI back here somewhere?
Yeah, and you didn't peel the plastic off this.
Oh, is there plastic?
Indubitably.
Oh, good eye. Yeah, so the I/O shield, it does have plastic on there. I can see it now. Now this plastic doesn't hurt to leave it on, but it just will turn yellow and it'll get air gaps in it and bubbles, and it's just going to look terrible. Is there more plastic somewhere? Oh, there's some on this side. Sometimes there's plastic on the heat sinks too. Check that, because those do get hot and it will impede the cooling performance of the heat sink. You think they'd make that easier? There's like this little sliver of plastic. It really is bothering me because of how it looks. Just kind of, they jammed it in the corner. All right, you can go ahead. You got the HDMI in?
I'll hand you the keyboard and mouse.
Thank you.
And the HDMI goes in below the DVI. It's HDMI right here. I'm really digging these thin, monoprice. Where'd you get these? I mean,
Amazon.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, super thin HDMI.
Can you have
cable.
pretty long runs? I need one for my screening room.
I think up to 20...
Like 18 feet, maybe, something like that. 17.
20 or 25 feet, I think, is the maximum on those at Amazon.
Smoke test, people.
I think I have a link to those cables in my Amazon store, which is linked in my video notes of all my videos. That's the little USB receiver for the keyboard and mouse. They both share the same one.
And that'll do 4K at 60 hertz or whatever.
You can read more about them at Amazon. They've got all the specs if you're interested in the HDMI standard they support.
All right, Chad, who thinks it's going to work?
All right, what have I been missing in the chat? I've had my head down for some time. PC Fishing just became a member here for 6 months. He says, hello, Carrie and Mitch and Camera Girl. Hey, PC Fishing, thanks for joining us here in the Tech Club. Avery Ramstort with a $2.56 super chat contribution. Thank you, Avery. Prior to that, Avery sent a super chat of $5.12. And have I missed? Let's see, Richard became a member for 6 months. Right on. Thank you, Richard, for supporting the channel. And welcome into our Tech Club. Samuel Kowalski says hello. I think I've covered all the contributions that I missed. Thanks, guys, for being patient with me. Carlos wants to know, what brand of all-in-one will you finally use on this build, or what size? If you go back and look at there's a build of a giant computer case with RGB running down the front of it in strips.
Did you title that RoboFoot? Or
I don't think I did.
I think you titled it the name of the case, or the model of the case.
I can't remember the title of the video, but it's in the thumbnail, and it's back at Studio A, so you got to go back about 2 years. And that cooler is made by the case manufacturer for the aesthetics. And so those details are in the video. I don't remember. This cooler on the streamer is an NZXT cooler. I'm not loyal to any particular cooler manufacturer. It really kind of depends on the case. So whether we've used coolers from NZXT, Cooler Master, if I used any from Cooler, there's been some from Cooler Master. I don't usually use Cooler Master. Who am I thinking of? Corsair, I think. Asus, we've used their coolers on an Asus build, on the Big Beast build. That was an Asus cooler. The Capellix, we've used Deep Cool, we've used Silverstone, we've used...
What'd you use on a $10,000 bill?
That was the Asus cooler,
cooler.
the liquid cooler,
Yeah.
the Capellix. That was a big cooler.
Yeah.
So I can't remember what we put in Robot's Foot. I want to say that's made by Cougar, and I think it was a 360.
I don't think it was a 240.
It's a really cool looking. It's really cool looking.
Yeah.
So for that, aesthetic is a primary goal in building a computer that's both high performance and attractive, which of course about doubles the price. So you pay a lot of money for the aesthetic. If that's important to you, it will absolutely add to the PC cost while offering nothing in terms of performance, security, or reliability. So it's purely paying for the looks. It's sort of like when you go buy say a Tesla, you can have it in white or black. If you want any other color, it costs more. And then there are certain colors that cost even more. And all they're doing is painting it a different color. But not all paints cost the same from the manufacturer to apply them. Furthermore, if the aesthetic is really important to you and you want to shell out the extra few bucks, even though it adds nothing to do with performance or reliability of your Tesla or the safety, it's strictly an aesthetic. Just have the right expectation of where you're spending your money and what you're getting back in return. That's for you to decide. Chris's Channel of Technology contributes $5 via Super Chat. And it says, two squash brains working together from the Three Stooges, nook, nook, nook.
Okay, Chris, I'll give you trivia. How many shorts in the 24 years Columbia shorts did the Three Stooges make? And I know this because I have all of them on my NAS. So
well, over how many years did they make those?
24 years.
24 years?
24 years.
Oh, it's got to be 200.
You're close. It's 190.
Hey,
Yeah.
and I had no idea.
Yeah, their contract called for them to work 40 weeks a year on the shorts, and then they had 12 weeks off where they could do personal appearances, and that's kind of where they made their money, is when they toured doing personal appearances for 12 weeks.
Yeah, and they were told they
weren't doing very well.
They weren't doing well.
And they
we're not going to give you a raise because we're doing you a favor, really.
Yeah. And they never got a raise, Chad. They made, the three of them, $60,000 a year. So that's $20,000 per stooge.
I wonder what that was in today's money.
For 24 years, which I think is an insult because, Harry Cohen.
That was probably $100,000 a year. I mean, I don't think they were hurting.
No.
But the studio was making a killing.
Yeah, and telling them that
they weren't
very successful, and that's certainly not the case at all. So.
I heard the studio, if they had a movie they thought was a stinker, they'd put a Three Stooges short to air before the movie, and that brought people into the movie theater. But the Stooges didn't know that. Yeah, and as I recall, he was telling Mo, take my laundry in and wash my car. And he was doing it. Yes, sir. All right, are you ready to test this out?
Smoke test, yeah. You want to switch the camera to the actual board? And
well, let's see here. Let me go to OBS. And
put us in the corner?
Yeah, let's minimize or shrink down. We'll do picture-in-picture here. And let's turn on the HDMI input. There we go. And I'll turn the switch on or flip the switch to on the power supply.
Hit it.
Anytime.
The light.
Red diagnostic light. Fan is spinning. RAM is not lit up yet. There it goes. Your very first boot up will take a bit longer than normal because the motherboard has to acknowledge what chip you've installed and what RAM you've installed, adjust those timings and settings, and then reboot again. So give it a good 90 seconds, upwards to 3 minutes, depending on the board.
Be patient. Look,
So you
look
see
how
it
quick
came on,
in
but
less than 30 seconds.
But it shut off.
Again, yeah.
That's because it just achieved the settings, tested them, they worked. Because it worked, it says, okay, we'll apply the settings and boot with those settings this next time. So once again, it appears we have an operating system on that NVMe drive from our prior testing, and it's loading Windows 10, which has the wrong drivers, right? That was for a different motherboard.
Okay, so what do you do?
What we're going to do is we're going to erase this drive and do a clean install of Windows 10. This drive, if it was new out of the box, it would not have attempted to boot. It would have just said no boot device found. But because I did have Windows 10 installed on it from Threadripper, the AMD drivers are still on there, and it's causing a blue screen because the hard drive controller and everything's very different. So what we'll do is we'll turn the machine off, and we'll grab our Windows 10 installation media, which you can make yourself completely for free. Costs money to activate it, but you can install it for free. That's our latest installation media with Windows 10 22H2. That'll be the first time I'm actually using this boot media. I hope I made it right. Plug that into any blue USB port. That is a very fast flash drive.
And it's interesting here. They can't see it because they're too far away. But you know those little metal things that normally you fold back? Now they're not blocking the USB ports, but they're there, and that bothers me. You know, they're kind of below, but I would bend those back. It's too late now, but I mean,
well,
you know what I'm talking
that's
about?
not an option for you to bend back, and it's nothing you should be looking for.
It's on the board. Yeah,
that's the way the board is designed with the I/O shield built in. So yeah, don't that's
cut
not an issue.
Yeah, don't cut those off. Yeah.
Don't second guess it. It is ready to go as it is. So yeah, but I'm glad you mentioned it because that could have saved somebody.
So now will that boot immediately to this?
No, because we have a bootable NVMe drive, right?
That's right.
So we have to override that.
Okay.
We have to tell it we won't. Normally, if the NVMe drive is brand new, it has no format.
Okay.
Then the system looks for the next bootable thing, which in this case would be the flash
so you have to go in the BIOS.
Well, we can either go in the BIOS or we hit like F12 at the right time, and we get boot options.
Okay.
There's more than one way to do things with computers. So, did I flip this? Go ahead and tap that, and then what I'll do is I'll start hitting F12 immediately. Just keep tapping it over and over. Now it's F12 on Gigabyte boards. It may be different on a different manufacturer's board. It will be in your documentation, and that's what I wanted right there. And then I can select the UEFI
if you can
Extreme.
if you can read this, you're too close. No, that's not.
Now it should be booting from the flash drive. Is the light blinking on the flash drive?
No.
Well, we'll find out here in a second if we get the setup. Yeah, we are at the setup. What I'm going to do, Mitch, I'll make this full screen for you and I because it's pretty tiny for us. And we go through in the normal install the same way I've always done this. However, what I'm going to do instead, I have another idea. Let's do something unexpected. Let's install Windows 11. There is a benefit to Windows 11 if you have a 12th gen or newer CPU in that it's designed to look for those performance cores and economy cores that are unique to Intel 12th gen and newer, and can optimize those much more efficiently than Windows 10. So this is a recently made Windows 11 media flash drive. It's made the same way for free from Microsoft, again with 22H2 already applied. And now we'll turn this on, and again we'll start hitting F12. Windows 11's been out a year now, so most of the bugs have been worked out. They're finally starting to introduce new features like tabbed Windows Explorer.
Don't like it.
Well, you've got time.
Yeah.
You can afford to not like it at least until October of 2025.
If I live that long. Okay, all right.
And I don't think you've got it plugged in all the way. You see, we're not being offered that as an option. So let me turn this back off. And go ahead and pull that out of the USB port. Anytime that happens, plug it into a different USB port, a blue one.
Blue one.
Make sure it's fully seated. Good. It's possible I did not make this media correctly. I have not tested it. This is the first time I'm using this new
Okay.
You know, version of Windows 11.
You make mistakes? Never. Okay, let's see.
Hey, there it is.
Oh, okay.
So just not.
I didn't use enough force. All right.
I guess, I don't know, it wasn't perhaps fully seated. So now I've selected that. Again, we'll get the boot up screen from the setup. And it's going to look very similar to Windows 10 because essentially Windows 11 is Windows 10.
Yeah, but it didn't have the little dots in the circle. It had a smooth. So that was different. I'd never seen a smooth. Yeah,
it's
circle.
Again, it's sort of a different face on the same old body.
Okay.
We're going to go ahead and select I don't have a product key. And we want Windows 11 Pro because that will be the product key we provide. Just so you know, if you already have Windows 7 Pro, Windows 8 Pro, Windows 10 Pro, any of those product codes will work on Windows 11 and activate Windows 11. You don't need to buy a new code. At least it'll work once. Once you activate it, you won't be able to use that same product code again. Let's go next. And of course, agree to the license agreement because you don't have a choice. Always choose custom. Now, we shouldn't see any partitions here on a brand new solid state drive. So I'm going to delete all these partitions. And in doing so, if there were any data on this drive, I am permanently erasing it.
Can't get it back.
Don't take this lightly. Because this is what it should have looked like if, in fact, this was brand new out of the box. You just get drive 0, unallocated space, 3,726 gigabytes, which is essentially 4 terabytes. And hit next.
You watch how fast
this
installs.
This should work quickly.
Screaming. Yeah.
Now, I haven't verified. I have not gone into the BIOS and looked for a new BIOS. I have not verified our RAM is being seen as 32 gigs, and I've not verified our processor has been recognized. I probably should have done that, but since it's booted, likely everything is fine. But it will be what we check once this is complete. I think a package has been dropped off.
I thought I heard somebody stumbling around out there, but
I'm gonna get a cold Gatorade. This one's getting warm. You need anything?
I grabbed myself an Avion.
Right on. What's that spelled backwards?
Naive. Naive? Oh. I think I like the Fuji. I know water is water, but I think
the Fuji's better.
I think
too.
I like the Fuji.
Or Fiji.
Fuji, yeah. Thinking about where I want to travel next. All right, yeah.
That was already on its first boot. At this point, we no longer need the flash drive installed. Everything that's required for Windows to finish installing has been copied over. But I'm going to leave it in there for now.
Yep.
Let's see, what are we missing in the chat? You'll notice we have not plugged into the network.
Nope.
We don't want to because it will force us into a Microsoft account. And this, if it goes to a customer, certainly doesn't need my Microsoft account associated with it.
Yep.
We want to create a local account.
You be willing to sell the big robot's foot? You're going to put this in the big foot, right?
Yeah.
And you'd be willing to sell robot's foot.
Everything's for sale.
Okay.
Nothing? No packages. Bummer. I was hoping that 13th gen CPU would arrive during today's broadcast so we could play with it, but if not, no big deal. It'll be content for another day that we can look forward to. Clearly a BIOS update will have to take place on a 600 series board because the 13th gen didn't exist.
And what did you get that chip for? How much?
An i5, it's a Core i5 13600K, $329.99 or $95.
Okay.
Say $330 at Amazon. Currently, the price will only come down, but because it's still new. For example, compare it to an 11600K or a 12600K, and you'll see that the 13600K is going to move in that direction over the same period of time, generally speaking. So if you know how old an 11600K is, and you see what the price is, and you do the price history search on that to see when the price did get to this price point it's at today, then you have an idea of how long you need to wait before the 13th version of that, 13th generation of that, becomes that price. So the longer you wait, the cheaper it gets. To a certain, it does bottom out at a certain point. All right, Now we're at the screen that we are familiar with in Windows 10, only the colors are different. This is, again, the biggest part of Windows 11 is the color scheme and the interface. But behind the curtain, it's mostly still all the same as Windows 10. So we're in the United States, we click yes. Keyboard is US, and we don't want to add a secondary keyboard language, but you can if you want to. It wants to connect us to a network. And as you see, it's not offering us the option of not selecting anything. Isn't that interesting? So I'm going to click whatever this is, hidden network. I'm hoping it'll just time out. I don't see any
that's weird.
bypass to this.
I thought the old Windows 11 did.
Well, this is 22H2.
Yeah, so that's the new one, yeah.
And there is a key combination here, and I'm trying to remember what it is. It's like Windows key something. I mean, look in the chat room. Somebody might know what I'm talking about and can
that's a GIF.
share that. No, there's a way around it.
Okay.
David Dix at Rock City PC contributes $10 via Super Chat. He says, I don't believe you can do a local account with 22H2. When it boots, hit Shift F10 and the command line will come up and type out-of-box experience OOBE/bypass, bypass NRO, and you will be able to continue with limited experience. And Kurt Schlegel with a $10 super chat says, Doc said get more electrolytes, so now I'm sipping Gatorade in stereo with Carrie. Yeah, Doc said my potassium was high, and I said, I drink a lot of Gatorade, and he goes, no, that won't do it. But if your potassium gets high, you let me know.
How do you make it low? Pills?
It could be diet, change what you're eating, or how much of it you're eating, or what did the doctor say?
What do you eat, 10 bananas a day?
No, that's adding potassium.
Oh, yeah.
That's the other way.
Yeah, okay.
So anyway, those were the commands. Thank you to Kurt and David. So David, that's what I think I was looking for, was the Shift F10. Can we do Shift F10 now? Will that work?
Shift F10?
Yeah. It does work. And then we're going to type in...
I'm all thumbs. Okay, yeah.
OOBE.
OOBE.
And then we're going to do a backslash. That's the one opposite of what's underneath the question mark. That's the question mark.
Oh, yeah.
So you see the slash under the question mark?
Yeah.
That's called a forward slash. We want to go the other way. So if you look above the enter button.
So I got a backspace?
Yeah, backspace. And then on this keyboard, it's this button right here.
Okay.
And then type in bypass.
BYPASS.
N like Nancy.
N like Nancy.
R like Robert. O like...
O.
Yeah. And push enter. I don't think it took that enter. Hit enter again.
You might have to make that bigger. I can't see.
Oh, it didn't type at all.
Oh.
What happened? I thought I saw it. OOBE / bypass NRO enter.
There you go.
Thank you for that. That's what I was looking for, I guess. I suppose that's a new little twist to 22H2.
Yeah, I like the dots in the circle like that. Very familiar.
Just like a toilet flushing.
Yeah, very familiar.
That's what I see.
Except if you're Australia, then it's the other way.
Right.
Yeah, you know that, yeah. That would freak me out to see water going down the drain.
I probably wouldn't notice.
Counterclockwise, that would just...
It would freak me out if the water was coming out of the toilet.
I don't think it did that when I was in the Philippines. I think it was clockwise, because if it was going counter, I know I'd have gone, yeah.
You know what they say, don't look down.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're booting into Windows now. And we're going to go through the same screens here. Yes to the US. yes to the keyboard layout, being US, skip a secondary language. I don't have internet is finally an option. Look at that.
Look at that.
We're going to click I don't have internet.
They're a little sneaky.
And we're going to continue with limited setup. And the video camera's in the way here, so let's close camera 1 for a moment here so we can see. What is your name? Well, we're going to use the name user. Enter, and we're going to leave the password blank and hit enter.
But if you were a first-time builder, wouldn't that freak you out going into that, whatever that line is, you know, that where you type that?
Shouldn't.
It would make me a little nervous, you know. If you better type that exactly.
It's a brand new install.
If you hit enter, you don't think, not that it's going to blow up, but it's just like, you know, that's a little unsettling for someone with their first build.
Well, that's why we're giving the information to folks so they can follow along. They don't have to understand why, but they can understand what to expect if they were to do that and what it accomplishes and whether or not they would deem that appropriate for what they're trying to accomplish with their build. I don't have a problem with a Microsoft account. I just can't have I can't be signed in to a computer I'm selling to somebody else. All right, so we're going to just turn everything off but location settings, and that way the date and time and everything can stay up to date. And that can all be changed, again, by the end user in the control panel if they want to flip any of those things on or off to their particular desires. And then I can go ahead and turn camera 1 back on, I think, since we're just now finalizing our Windows 11 install. I don't think Windows 11 is worth upgrading to, but if you're making a new computer, why not just go ahead and put Windows 11 on it?
Yeah.
If you don't like Windows 11, well then go ahead and keep Windows 10. You're good until October 14th of 2025. So there might be a Windows 12 out.
23, 24.
It's a little under 3 years now. Just under 3 years, right? Because it's October 28th.
I think I can make it. Yeah.
Oh, you think you?
Yeah, I think I can make it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can.
Hey, can you take that foot out of the grave?
Okay.
Thanks.
I thought it was on a banana peel. All right. So okay.
That was the other foot.
Yeah. Oh, that was.
Yeah, so that was very helpful. That's what I needed. David Dix over at Rock City PC knows what he's talking about. That's nice.
Not thrilling, but nice.
I'm just saying, I'm used to people coming around and saying things they don't know what they're talking about. But, you know, since we've switched to moderators and members only participating, the amount of nonsense being typed in the chat room is now at like 0% versus what it was. So right now the chat is open only to members and moderators.
Oh, we're already on
I think it is.
Yeah, we're already on the screen. That was fast.
Oh, did it? I wasn't paying attention. Okay, now we can hook up the network.
Oh, okay.
And we can go to Windows Update and go ahead and grab whatever updates are new since 22H2, which only just came out, so there should not be many updates to do. This should be much faster now. Than what you've seen in the past. When I go to Windows Update, it has to download all the previous updates.
How come the Ethernet port is red? I'm just asking. I'm curious. I've never seen it red. Is it just that's still going to be a gigabit? That's not a 10 because the 10 doesn't look like.
It could be a 2.5. Maybe?
Oh, it is a 2.5. I'm looking at it. 2.5.
That's probably why.
Okay.
But I don't have a 2.5 router or switch. I couldn't use it on the back of my NAS. It would not benefit me to go to 2.5 whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm happy with my GigaBlast. So.
Okay, so back to full screen for Mitch and myself so we can see this thing the way the people at home are seeing it. Oh, much better. I'm going to go over to settings. Do I want the App Center? I do not.
Why don't you double check your processor and your RAM while we're here? I mean,
that's a great idea. I appreciate you reminding me.
I'm glad you thought of it. I'm glad I thought of it.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here and we'll type in MS Info 32, enter. And we can see Windows 11 Pro, our build, Z690 motherboard. We are in UEFI mode. And I'm going to talk like this the rest of the time. There's 32 gigs
of RAM.
31.8 available because our built-in graphics needs RAM. Just like when you buy a graphics card, it has RAM on it. Because we've got built-in graphics, it's going to share our RAM or steal our RAM And it doesn't tell us our processor in here. There it is, 12th gen Core i9-12900k, 16 cores, 24 logical processors. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Windows Update. Click. Check. Date and time is off, but you don't need to change that manually. Because we have location setting turned on, it should, in theory, synchronize that.
Speaking of that, when does that, is that November 5th? When does that change? Where we don't change.
Daylight saving?
Is that about November 5th? I forget. Somebody in chat will remind us. It's coming up, though, pretty fast.
I know it's around the corner.
Yeah.
And yeah, if...
we don't switch, which is great. Then you don't have to monkey with the clocks in your car. I hate that. And then you got to pull out the manual. Hold this and press these two at the same. And I'm like, I just want to talk to it. Please change the time, but no, not even in the high-end cars. Can you just talk to it?
Alexa,
leave me alone. Yeah, don't bother me. Now you made everybody's.
Don't say Alexa.
Yeah, now you made everybody's thing go on.
Alexa,
order unicorn meat. Oh no. Sorry, you started it. Okay.
Alexa, open the pod bay doors.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. Also, I'm not out, and we're not in space.
My bad.
Yeah. Never mind.
Alexa, beam me up.
Okay, I'll do it. But you should probably know I accidentally combined a human and a triple once. Just once. Good luck.
I did not know it could do that. Very nice. Yeah.
You know Jeff Bezos is a big Star Trek fan.
Yeah.
Use your imagination, folks.
Yeah. Not too many updates. I'm surprised, you know.
You're laughing way too much.
Yeah.
It was a unicorn meat.
Yeah, that was right off the cuff, baby. All right.
You know they do sell unicorn meat.
Don't tell her. Oh yeah.
What is it? It's like a cotton candy with glitter in it?
I don't know, but some guy was zooming, did that because he knew. I'm like, do you have the A? And I'm like, yeah. Don't say it. And he's like, I gotta say it. I'm like, okay.
Alexa, tell me a joke.
What's those pancakes and sucks blood? Count spatula.
Oh, I got a much better joke than that.
I somehow doubt it.
Yeah.
But if you have your dad joke of the day...
Well, give me full screen. I don't want half screen.
Oh, we got to go
full screen, yeah.
Star of the show.
Yeah.
My goodness, what was I thinking?
All right.
Let me step out of frame here.
Yeah. All right, chat. It's a little time in the show that we call corny joke of the day. Let me think. Okay. How do you get a lawyer out of a tree?
How do you get a lawyer out of a tree?
You cut the rope. Right. Too dark? All right.
Cut the... Oh!
Yeah. One more.
All right.
One more. That was dark. This is much better. Why don't oysters share their pearls?
Why don't oysters share their pearls?
Because they're shellfish.
Of course.
One more? All right. What's the difference between a well-dressed man riding a bicycle and a shabbily dressed man riding a tricycle?
What is the difference between a well-dressed man riding a bicycle and a shabbily dressed man riding a tricycle?
A tire.
Do you know the difference between snowmen and snowwomen?
Mm-mm.
Snowballs.
Ah, okay. All right. We'll get the hook. All right. Now we can see what we're going here.
Still downloading an update there. We could restart at any point, but I'll just let it finish what it's doing, just because if I don't, when we reboot, it'll do it again. So that particular update. Does anybody in the chat have any questions about today's build, about any of the hardware or the installation of Windows 10 or 11, what we've done today? Has anything I've done left any of you confused? We still have to check these temps, so we're not done yet, but I just want to take this moment while we're waiting for updates to install to address any questions you might have. I haven't seen any, which doesn't mean you didn't ask. It means I didn't see it. Mitch and I have both been really focused on what we're doing here. So you will have to repeat your question again if an answer wasn't provided to you by others in the chat. But we will take this time where we're waiting to do our best to provide answers to your technical questions. Kenny says the time on the computer hasn't changed. Well, we haven't rebooted yet, Kenny. So we'll wait till the first reboot and see if it changes. And if not, we can.
It should though, right? I mean, once we get all these.
I'm not sure with Windows 11, but it's easy to force it to synchronize. But even then, you wouldn't set it by hand. You would just synchronize it. You can force that synchronization. That should happen automatically. If it doesn't happen automatically.
And is there time synchronized to that big clock,
atomic clock
in Colorado or wherever?
You can set your NNTP server, which is the time server. There's a couple of them. By default, I forget which one Windows defaults to, but I would leave it at the default. But you can change it. You can Google that for more information.
I'm just curious as to, it's got to be accurate. I mean, they got to get their time from someplace. I mean,
sure.
Yeah.
No, it's accurate. Some people are a little more particular than others when it comes to that information, but
set their clock 10 minutes ahead so they're never late.
Al Perez says, Carrie, thanks to Carrie, I purchased a Cronus and it worked great and was back and running in minutes. He must have said something prior to that about a crash. What is the socket type of the CPU? A 12th and 13th generation Intel chips are socket 1700. Patrick Manny says it synchronizes the time at time.windows.com. So Microsoft, I guess, has their own. William Lynn says, yes, when you go to advanced time settings, you can change the default Windows time server to the National Institute of Standards and Technology. I guess that's the NNTP.
Yeah. Where that clock's accurate within,
Martin Hogg says, thanks for the Microsoft PC Manager tip. Yeah, one thing I didn't go over with that was the little gear icon, because it was pointed out it's running at startup. And all you have to do is hit the gear icon for the settings within the PC Manager, and you'll see the option that you can uncheck if you don't want it to run at startup. I don't know why it's running at startup, but it is enabled by default, and you don't need to manually go into Task Manager and manually uncheck it. It's built right into the menu of the settings, and I failed to explore that when we were going through that PC Manager together. So my apologies on that oversight, but hopefully you guys picked up on that. Starshine said, I just asked Alexa to order unicorn meat. Sorry, I can't do that, she replied.
Very rare, yeah.
Maybe it's sold out.
Yeah.
All right, let me go take another look at what's going on over. Oh, we went to sleep, I think. Wiggle the mouse and see if we could wakey.
Eggs and bakey.
All there right, it is. Oh, look, the video driver loaded. See how everything got super tiny?
Small. You can change that.
Let's go ahead and... Oh, it's installing something right now. So as soon as that install's done, I think we can do the restart.
Required.
Still more updates than I anticipated, given that this is a...
brand new.
Yeah, it's a brand new installation media that Microsoft recently made available. Completed, pending. All right, well then I guess we can restart now.
And will then that reset, or you got to set the display?
Yeah, I'll have to. It's going to default into 4K, which is why everything looks super tiny for us and for the folks at home. I like to put it in 1080.
Yep.
Because the capture card's at 4K, the system says, oh, this display I'm hooked up to can handle 4K, so I'm going to give you 4K if that's, what would be recommended for the type of graphics card you have and the type of display you have. So it's going to default to the best possible settings based on those requirements or stipulations. So we can go in and we can reduce that. However, it's going to take a few minutes here while we finish doing these updates.
Now, have you ever had a power failure?
Sure.
When this was happening?
Yes.
Does it brick the motherboard?
It did
or no?
back in like Windows XP and Windows 3. Well, we didn't really have much updates in Windows 3.1. It could corrupt the operating system. Back in like FAT32 file system days. NTFS is a far more robust file system and is not likely going to corrupt. It's possible. It's far less likely with NTFS.
Like you said, here in Arizona, we don't get many where we lose. Typically in the summer, where everyone's running their air conditioning because it's 116 out. But
Well, specifically here in Phoenix, there might be little small cities around Arizona that don't have as reliable of power. Rural areas, perhaps.
But we're on a pretty good grid here. I'm actually shocked, pleasantly surprised, that we don't have more brownouts in the summer when it's obscene.
Stephen Multiverso says, I'm very recently built an i3-12100F 8660. I'm using a stock Intel fan from the box. It's working fine. It's a better idea to buy a more powerful cooling system. No, not on an i3. I wouldn't recommend any i3 or Ryzen 3 to anybody at any time. It's such an insignificant price difference to go to an i5, and the i5 gives you so much more time to have a usable computer, where the i3 will become obsolete earlier than any other CPU you can buy brand new in the Intel family of that generation. In general, I would say it's a waste of money or it's short-sighted unless you only plan to have the computer for 2 or 3 years and you plan on upgrading it. If you're the kind of person that upgrades that often, that's fine. The i3s are just so weak compared to the i5s, i7s, and i9s, and the price difference is not significant. They do not run hot. You could take the heatsink off of your i3, you could literally remove it and run your computer without it. I'm not saying you should, but I'm saying that's how massively different the processing power of an i3 is versus any of the other generation of Intel, or models rather, within that generation. In fact, I've got a video where I did just that. Not only did I not attach the heatsink, I ran Prime 95 on it. It was fine. Now you try to do that with an i5, i7, i9, you will overheat and it will eventually blue screen and won't necessarily damage anything, but
it'll throttle itself.
It's a very, very low-end processor. Extremely low-end. And just for a few dollars more, keeping everything else the same, your storage, your motherboard, your power supply, none of those prices change. You'd still be using everything else. And you're just going up one little step, and that's going to add a couple of years of useful life onto that computer. I don't know who's being convinced in buying these i3s. Furthermore, you got the F version, which means you don't have any built-in graphics. That means you have to provide your own graphics card. That probably you spent more for that graphics card than what you spent on the CPU. You know, it's your choice. It's not something I would recommend. It would cost me too much to support that because there'd be no profit in something that low end. And then the customer's going to call me with a computer's running slow or sluggish in a couple of years. And they're probably going to say, I just bought this. Why are you telling me I have to upgrade? Yeah, well, we bought at the bottom of the barrel, so you don't have the same life expectancy out of it. Again, even just going to the low end of the i5 range would buy you probably double the life of the usable life of the computer. It's not like the computer's going to stop working because it's an i3. It's just going to feel slower sooner. That's all. But listen, not to rain on your parade, congratulations on doing your own build. If the computer meets your needs today, that's all that matters. I do want you to have proper expectations, not to expect an 8-year life out of that machine. Not saying it's not possible, but in all likelihood, within 3 or 4 years, that machine's going to feel like a dog. Maybe not. Depends how you use it and depends how sensitive you are to that. But at the same time, I want to congratulate you on building your own PC and being successful with it. And in all likelihood, you'll be eager to build another one soon anyway. This is a very enjoyable experience. So let's take a look over at what's going on here. Oh, we did boot back into Windows 11. Let's go full screen for Mitch and myself here. And we're going to go back to Windows Update. We still don't have, first things first, I need to get this resolution changed, display settings, because everything's super tiny. So we're going to go to
Display resolution below it, right there.
oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, time did not update, so we can right click, adjust date and time, adjust for daylight saving. We don't ever do that in Arizona. Let's turn this off and back on again. Have you tried turning it off and on again? So right now it's got us on Pacific time. Here in Arizona, we're in -7. So we're saying it's 6:21 a.m. That's probably the time in Taiwan or somewhere where they built the board.
Okay.
And then sync now. But you notice I'm not clicking on it and manually entering it, because making mistakes in that can cause your browser to not work, updates stop working because you typoed it. So best to let it handle it its own, on its own. And then once it synchronizes, it should keep it in sync from that point forward. Don't know why it's taking so long. Riveting video, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, something's not right here.
Yeah, you got the time zone Arizona, yeah.
That's really bizarre. And I'm impatient. Something like this should happen in seconds. It shouldn't be taking this long. Times like that was when I might want to switch to a different time server besides, time.windows.com.
I wonder if you turned on set time zone automatically, just for fun, whether it would. You've got it off, but I'm like. That is odd, yeah.
So this is where you change your time server. It shouldn't take this long.
Region, United States, time zone Arizona. Yeah, you gotta.
Says we don't have internet, maybe? We had internet a minute ago, so that would certainly explain it if the internet wasn't working. But then how were we downloading the updates if the internet wasn't working? But let's take a look. I wasn't paying attention. I just assumed it was there. Yeah, we do have the little globe down here, don't we?
How could it kick off?
That's a great question. Maybe one of the updates causes this problem, but sometimes all you have to do is unplug the Ethernet connection from the back, and then plug it back in. And I'm also going to remove the flash drive for Windows 11 since we don't need that anymore. What we're looking at is the bottom right corner of the screen. You see like a globe.
Versus a screen.
Right. It should look like a little computer screen when we're connected here.
And nothing. Well, Windows 11's not knocking me out.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? But it certainly explains this delay. It'd be nice if it came back and told us.
Right.
Instead of just spinning and spinning for no apparent reason.
Maybe
like it's
it
working.
didn't like that website that you logged onto. That connect.
Well, no, the problem is that with the globe here, it's implying we have no internet connection. So what happened? Did our Ethernet adapter get lost?
Get your Wi-Fi.
Ethernet.
Ethernet.
It's a Realtek 2.5 gig. Could be driver related. Let's see. Right click. Device manager. And let's see if we have an exclamation point in here. We have a couple unknown devices. There's our Ethernet adapter right there. Interesting. That is very, very interesting. Little live diagnostic on a brand new build. These high-end Ethernet cards, right, the 2.5s and like the 10s, their network drivers can be particularly finicky. And it could have received a driver update, or perhaps there's some other update we haven't put on yet. You know, there's some drivers clearly that are missing in the device manager, which should fill in automatically through Windows Update, but we can't get to Windows Update if we don't have an internet connection. I want to just double check both ends of this Ethernet cable, even though it was working just a moment ago. I'm guessing this is a...
You think when we restarted, like you said, when you restarted and there were still some updates left?
No, because it finishes the updates.
Oh.
Like, you know, the screen said it was finishing. But it could have been a driver in one of those updates that isn't compatible. One of the things you can do is, you know, just check to see if you can roll a driver back by right-clicking, go to Device Manager here, and then we'll look at the network interface card. Double-click on the controller under the driver tab, see if there's a rollback driver option.
Okay.
So I don't know what version we rolled back to here. So what I'm going to do, we're going to shut this completely down. In fact, let's put ourselves back on the screen, because when I shut it down, I don't want people thinking that we've lost the connection. And where am I? Right here. We'll keep us up here in a corner.
Just hit the button once.
And then I want to go full screen for us. Yeah, you can go ahead and tap the button. That's fine. We'll shut it down. Sometimes, like back in the day, and I haven't seen this in a long time, you had to physically unplug the computer,
Okay.
and hit the power button, make sure we drain all the power.
Okay.
Wait a minute, plug it back in, and that has, I don't know, I mean, for years I've off and on seen this where the network card is sort of locked up, it's not working, and nothing we do, no matter how we reboot or shut off, it doesn't fix it. But once we pull power from it, wait a minute, go ahead and turn it back on, and let's see if that makes any difference whatsoever. It's nothing I really worry about unless it's consistent. Nobody that I've ever helped with this particular issue has had it ongoing. Maybe once every 9 or 12 months it would occur, and then suddenly it just never happens again. It might be something as simple as that.
There you
It does look like we have internet now. Now, I want to go full screen for us one more time because, again, it's very difficult for us to see the screen as small as it is. And we're going to go back to right-click, adjust date and time, and sync now.
There you go.
That looks much, much better, and it's obviously much faster. And set time automatically is there. Perfect. And then what I can do now is go back to Windows Update. Sharp eyes in the chat room for catching that. And then we'll go Windows Update. Download and install. So it did look like there was a network driver there, didn't it? I clicked on that so fast.
Yeah.
Also, the LED shut up.
The LED
Was not on.
didn't come on. Interesting.
It's on now, though.
Yeah, well, that's a good tip as well. There is LEDs quite often on most motherboards above or beside the Ethernet connector. Of course, if we were using wireless, this would not have been an issue. This has only happened to systems, anytime I've seen it, that are hardwired. I'm just not sure what the freeze up is that requires a complete power drain. It's very strange. But again, unless it's happening regularly with consistency, once you get past it, you're not likely to experience it again for a long time. Download and install this update. Okay, neither of these are driver updates. I want to go back to the chat because I did invite questions, and I just want to make sure that I haven't missed any. Again, if you have a question, go ahead and ask it again. Yeah, I get a little spoiled, you know. I build these machines and I don't even look for stuff like that. It's also very difficult to see it when I'm trying to focus on being talent on camera, making sure the audio and video are correct. I'm in frame, in focus, that we have a green status on OBS at all times. It's constantly fluctuating in our bit rate. And then, of course, the unexpected thing happens like that. And it's sort of like, wasn't paying attention. Guilty as charged. But, you know.
It's all good. It all turned out.
This is how we keep ourselves sharp. You get a little too comfortable, sometimes you miss the obvious. Starslane said, you told the computer you didn't have internet when you started up. When we started up, we did not have the Ethernet cable plugged in. That is correct. Because if we give it internet, then it will force us to create an online Microsoft account. So we don't want it to try and establish an internet connection during the setup phase. Once we've gone beyond the setup phase, then we give it internet. And we don't have to tell that to Windows. It senses it automatically. It's just, it really, really wants you to create that Microsoft account. And it's sort of a workaround so that we don't have to do that. Because again, I'm building machines for customers. I don't want to sign into my Microsoft account and then give that computer to a customer for security concerns. So, but that's how it works. It's always worked the same. And yeah, don't misconstrue telling the computer you don't have internet that shuts off your internet. That's not how that works. But it is a unique phase that is required from the way I build machines during the initial installation of Windows 10 or 11 to bypass the requirement for an internet connection during the setup phase. So that's all that was, and it had no relationship to the issue we just experienced.
And I'm not being hounded by notification, would you like to upgrade to Windows 11? I thought, like every day something would pop up. We
It's
noticed
there.
that your machine
Maybe-
is eligible. That I don't mind seeing in the upper right-hand corner, but it's when it comes up and goes, if you'd like to do it, click here. I don't know. I don't want to do it.
It will ask, there's an option that says remind me later.
Yeah.
I don't think there's an option that says never remind me.
Right.
But what you do is you sort of say don't bother me for I don't know how many days it is, a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But it will, how
Pop
about
up.
now?
Yeah, it'll pop up again.
And then you say, leave me alone.
Yeah.
It'll wait a couple weeks again. How about now? And that will go on indefinitely. But yeah, they're not being as aggressive and in your face with it as they were with prior operating system introductions, which is
Nice, yeah.
nice, but I would like a little checkbox that says,
Yeah,
don't remind me again.
Don't ask me again, yeah.
That option doesn't seem to exist. They're just like, we'll wait. You won't have a choice.
Yes, we'll bide our time.
We'll remind you. And some people find those reminders annoying, as I do.
While we're waiting for this, I just noticed in the birthday build that you and I did for me, the black one in 2019, the chip in there is an i7 8700.
Okay.
Is that still that's a pretty good chip? I think
It's an 8th gen.
I think that came out in 2017. So that's still a good chip. I mean,
Yeah.
I do very minimal video editing. If an actor, if I got to do an audition where I got to film myself on my phone and then just do a fade up, the audition and fade down. So very few cuts is the thing, and I mean,
It should,
works, that's still a good chip, right? It's an i7.
yeah, and it should be compatible with Windows 11.
It did say
so
that, yeah.
That's easily an 8-year build. And if it's 2016, 2017, you're on what, year 5 or year 6?
No, we built it in 2019.
We built it in 2019. Was it a used part?
No,
Was it brand new?
I think a brand new chip,
I
yeah.
don't think so.
No, you might have had it around, yeah.
Yeah. So an 8th generation Intel chip. Again, if you figure an 8-year build out of an i7, you're
it's
you're
doing
somewhere you're beyond midlife on it.
It's doing everything I want it to do, so.
Yeah. And look, as long as it's meeting your needs and
Right.
you can run a supported operating system on it, it's good.
Yeah.
But let's see. I'm looking in the chat here. What is the built-in graphics on these 12th and 13th gen Intel chips capable of? At what stage would you consider the build to require a dedicated graphics card? The stage is when it no longer meets the requirements of the user. What it's capable of depends, once again, on, what am I going to do? Talk for the next 17 hours about what it's capable of? It's a very difficult question to answer because talking about what it's capable of or what it's not capable of, it's just not that simple. It may be capable of playing a specific version of a specific game with specific settings and not capable of playing a specific version of that same game under certain settings. With regards to video editing, I've been rendering videos with built-in graphics on Intel. It's working just fine. It does work faster with a dedicated graphics card, but it depends how expensive your time is. So to justify whether or not you want to buy a discrete graphics card to meet whatever needs you need met will be a decision you will have to make uniquely for you. Essentially, because we have hundreds of millions of applications, we can't go through all of them. We can't even go through 1% of them. Specifically, if there's an application you are most concerned about and you're wondering if the built-in graphics on a 12th or 13th gen would be good enough to function with those apps, that would certainly be a question we could answer.
Yeah, go ahead and restart.
And I shouldn't have used the word good enough because, once again, that's subjective, but rather whether it's capable, right, of accomplishing the task, whether that task is going to take longer versus not work at all. Like those kind of questions we can answer. And of course, you can always go to Google and you can look up the information on the built-in graphics with regards to benchmarks that have been run and compare them to anything you want to compare them to. Any version of NVIDIA or AMD Radeon or previous Intel graphics, there's a website, cpuboss.com, that does these comparisons, and it will overload you with a ton of technical minutia that might help set your expectations for what you're going to get. I've done video editing with Cyberlink Power Director on my 9th, 10th, and 11th gen Intel chips, and it's very impressive, I have to say. It is. Anybody who says that those chips aren't good enough for video editing hasn't used one for video editing in quite some time. I would have agreed to that in the 90s or the early 2000s, but not anymore.
And you're doing that in 1080p, not 4K, obviously.
I can do it in 4K, yeah. Yeah. So it depends on, obviously 4K is 4 times as much data. So it's going to take 4 times longer. But it depends, you know, how many overlays, transitions do we have in the video?
Right.
What frame rate, what resolution. There's just a lot of variables. If you've got an hour-and-a-half video, it's going to take longer to render than a 10-minute video or a 90-second video. The trend with these short videos like TikTok and YouTube Shorts results in people, for the most part, doing everything on their phones now. So obviously, the graphics chip built into these Intel CPUs is, as far as I know, far better than what's on your smartphone. And you can edit video and take plenty of pictures on your smartphone. In general, there's probably some smartphones out there that are gaming smartphones that are better than your average, but
You want to check and see if we got any more updates?
yeah. Okay, back over to settings and back over to Windows Update.
Left-hand side of the screen, bottom one.
Thank you. I should know that by now. It's the same in Windows 10.
Well, and it's nice that you can move the taskbar, the icons, over to the left if you
Yeah,
feel,
if you want to.
If you feel much more comfortable, you just go, right-click on it or whatever, and so you just move it left, and they all jump. If you prefer it versus dead in the middle, I kind of like it over to the left. It's what I know. And
So just looking through here, there does seem to be in the device manager. Oops, over here. A couple of unknown devices. Let me see, what are we looking at here?
PC.
Not sure what that is.
No question mark, or there is a question
We
mark.
can go to the manufacturer's website and look under the driver download section.
Oh, we're up to date. Yeah.
I'm surprised Windows Update didn't fill those missing drivers in for us. We don't have anything unusual or exotic on here. Out of curiosity though, let me grab my utilities flash drive. Let me plug that in. Let's take a look at where our temps are just under normal operation, doing Windows updates and being at the desktop. And let's see where we're at. There it goes. And let's bring over, let's see. I want CPU Z, and I want Crystal Disk Mark. I want to test the speed on this Seagate drive. And I want hardware monitor for monitoring our temps. And of course, Prime 95, which I don't expect will survive a full 20 minutes without a heating issue. But the question is, how many minutes will it withstand? We'll get the answer to that here shortly. Where to start? Now, obviously, it would be in my best interest for accurate test results to fill in those drivers, but because we're live and it's going to take some time, since I'm not familiar with what it's missing, I just want to keep things moving along. We've been live now for almost 3 hours, and so we're nearly done. Let's just get to the nitty gritty of it and call it close enough for today's build.
Bring up the temperatures first, yeah.
Temperatures?
Yeah.
Okay. We're looking pretty cool.
Yeah.
Cooler than expected.
Yeah.
Let's bring up, let's see, where's my crystal disk mark at? Let's see how this Generation 4 performance-based NVMe 4 terabyte drive performs. We should be getting around 7,000 on the reads.
Really?
Probably a little over 5,000 on the writes, I'm guessing.
Oh, boy, you nailed that.
Well, again, we want to be in a certain ballpark. I'm not looking for a specific number, but rather to be within a range. So we'll let that run. It's going to take a few minutes. I'm going to go back to the chat here and see what else we've got here. Doman says, go to advanced options for optional updates. Oh, okay, we will check that in a minute. Carrie, are smartphones taking over? Well, for consumers, yeah, consumers consume. What do they consume? They consume things that are made with PCs. That's what they consume on their smartphone. If you got rid of PCs, there'd be no content for your smartphone to consume, for the most part. There's some exception, but overall, if you get a job, I don't know if you have a job, but likely if you have a job and you go to work at an office, you likely work with a computer. You don't typically work in an office with a tablet or a smartphone. You might work with a laptop or a desktop PC because you would be creating, you're paying you to work. When you're using a phone, you're typically not working. That's more playing. It's more entertainment or distraction. It'd be like saying nobody's buying cameras anymore. Well, then how are movies being made? I mean, if that were to be a case, right? Some people will write articles, journalists will write articles on how, it's the demise of the PC. And I would advise anytime you read these articles, which come out multiple times a year, every year for the last 30 years, write to them and ask them what tablet or smartphone did they write that article on. You might read the article on your smartphone, but you likely didn't write the article. Stephen King is likely not writing his next novel on an iPad or a tablet or a smartphone. So when we talk about the things you're consuming with your phone, where did those things come from? So they came from a PC in most cases. And if anybody goes to work in an office, do any of you work in an office where you don't have a laptop or a computer? Most people who don't would be working maybe a job in construction or outdoors, physical labor. But the world, the entire world, forget the United States, the entire world has millions of industry. And those industries rely on the complexity of PCs to perform the work that you as a consumer are purchasing. So consumers kind of get the leftovers, right? All the main stuff is being done in business. And so all the stuff that you guys as consumers get, it's all the leftovers, generally speaking, with few exceptions. Sometimes gaming can drive the video card market. But there's a whole nother tier of video cards like the Quadro series from NVIDIA, for example, that are far, far more expensive and more complex and far more powerful than any of your gaming cards. And, ignorance is bliss, I guess, but there's a whole world of industry out there that absolutely require it in order to generate more profit.
I just saw an Unbox Therapy with Lou where what he did was he got the Apple Ultra, the big one, and he said, I'm going to take my cell phone and I'm going to leave it in the office for 24 hours
Yeah.
and see if I can do everything on this, and he was kind of jonesing for the first couple hours. He's like, I miss my phone in my pocket. I'm so used to being in my pocket. But he actually was surprised because it was the cellular version. So he could take calls, make calls.
Yeah, but everything's so small.
Yeah, do everything.
How do you read an article on that?
Yeah, that's true too. So, but he's like, surprisingly, I mean, I miss my phone with a big screen, but he's like, I could do everything, or food, or the Apple Pay, with Starbucks and everything, no problem. So,
hey, there's the man, Michael Dane. Says, greetings, Carrie and Mitch. Have a great weekend. Hey, we will if you will.
Yeah, well, there's our numbers.
Carlos Hernandez says, on the all-in-one question, you never finished your answer. You'll have to remind me, what was the question? That was a long time ago. Was that half an hour ago? You gotta stay on me like that, because I will do that. Look at those final numbers. The write speeds were far better than I thought. I was expecting a minimum of 5,000. I got 6,800 on the writes.
Ooh.
That is fast. And then the computer just went to sleep. Wiggle the mouse. Come on, wakey. There it is. Those are very impressive numbers. Now, I don't know why I wasn't getting those numbers on Threadripper, but that's pretty cool. I'm happy with that. And again, we can go back and look at our temps. And still nice and cool. Let me bring up Prime 95 and let's see what happens to this poor thing when we really force it to work. And that's also really forcing the wattage out of that little power supply too.
Yeah.
So we're gonna click OK on all the defaults here.
Oh boy, and that fan is gonna ramp up.
Yeah, you're gonna hear it. And
there she goes.
And I'm gonna start a timer here on the phone. So let's go to the timer.
So who thinks it'll blue screen chat in?
I don't think we're gonna. Well, we'll stop it before it gets that far, but we got to keep an eye on that temp. And
you shut it down if it goes to, what did you say, 90? You don't like
there should be a
that
package at the door. Would you mind? Yeah, if it gets up like 95, I'll probably shut it off. Hey, Giordano just sent a $20 contribution. Giordani, my apologies. Giordani. Thank you for that. All right, what are we doing on temps? Temps are, I wonder if that's not accurate. Of course, we're under a minute here, so we'll give it some time. Let me go back to the chat room again.
Okay.
What brand all-in-one will you finally use? So we did answer that.
Yep.
You absolutely answered that. The case is it's a Cougar case, and it's a Cougar power supply. It is a Cougar power supply, but it's also a Cougar cooler, right? And that was done for the aesthetics to make it all look good. And that's a 360 millimeter cooler. Yeah. I'm sorry you missed the answer.
Yep.
But yes. Was there an Amazon box out there? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Let me read my email again, because, it's a delivery update. The package is on its way. Usually I get the message that it's arrived, and I thought that's what it was. Okay. Phew. That's all I need is it for go to somebody else's address and have a $350 processor and hope for the honesty of the person it got misdelivered to return it. You need marshmallows? Let me go full screen on this and...
It's not even, I mean, it's not cool, but it's not super hot air.
Let's see. Let's see, full screen. Well, it's getting a little warmer, but it just seems like it should be much, much hotter than that. This is a hot running chip, so I'm a little confused
Well, you put plenty of thermal paste on there.
Well, I'd say I put just enough.
Just enough.
I wonder if we're not hitting our
There's
our
a-
peak. Well, yeah, I mean it's peaking at 5.1 on the performance cores there. This is not expected in a pleasant way. But it makes me suspicious because something's running at 14 degrees Celsius? No, I don't know what that is. Yeah, this is probably more accurate, but it still doesn't sound right. Is that only saying 61 and not 81?
Yeah.
Yeah, 61.8. We're 4 minutes into our test. Man, I thought for sure we'd have overheated or gotten to a point of concern. Huh. Well, we'll let it keep going and see what happens.
Yeah.
Obviously, if the temperature readings are incorrect, if it's misreading them, the system will blue screen or shut down regardless of what the screen says if it's not accurate. So
Okay.
we'll let it keep running. I've got no complaints. Peter Parker in the chat room says, have I looked into the Acer RAM and SSD and NVMe M.2 drives? I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't recall ever talking about doing anything with Acer. However, parts are purchased, so unless Acer were to send me those parts, I would not voluntarily buy an Acer RAM or NVMe drive, and I don't know where this question, like, am I supposed to, did I talk about this? I know. I'm sorry, I have no idea what you're referring to, but if somebody wants to provide that, if you want to send me the Acer RAM and NVMe drive for me to test, certainly you can contact me in email. I do ask the emails are business inquiries only. If it's not a business inquiry, it probably gets filtered out. So some people will send me items like Ryan in Nevada has sent me quite a few items like that Lian Li case and some flashlights and things that I said I wanted to test if people want to support the channel that way. And if there's a particular product you want to see reviewed, then you should reach out to me. If you're willing to cover those expenses to get me the product, I will cover the expense to review it if it's something that I agree to review. And that way we can keep everything very, very objective when we're doing our reviews. Acer isn't really known for components. They're typically known for pre-built machines. So I don't really work with Acer for that reason. We should have another deal starting up here with Acronis next month, which is just a few days away. And I will obviously make a video and let you all know. We'll bring Begowden back to talk about, once again, remind us for new viewers, what is Acronis? And for the rest of us, what's new in the latest version, along with a significant discount. So that's coming in November. I'm talking with Corey Fruitman over at Instant House Call. They have a brand new version of Instant House Call, version 7. And things are much snappier, much faster. A lot of enhancements. This is a major, major update. And so we'll bring him on once again for folks who are new and don't have any idea what Instant House Call is. We'll go over the basics of what it's used for. And then for everybody else that does know, we'll talk about what's new. And finally, the folks over at RoboForm. We'll bring them on in November as well. Once again, we'll remind people what RoboForm is for those new here, and for the rest of us, what's new on the latest version. And of course, the discount of 60% off for new RoboForm customers only is in effect right now throughout the end of the year. And the links for RoboForm for supporting the channel and for all the products you've seen in today's video are in the video notes below the video. And with regards to Acronis and Instant House Call, those links, when they're active, will become available typically the day that I do the video that will involve an interview in both cases. For RoboForm, Simon will join us, and with Acronis, Bogowden will join us remotely. And yeah, we'll have a discount code. Typically, the discount codes are 30 days, but RoboForm is a bit of an exception. We're running that 60% off discount for new users only until the end of the year, so you have plenty of time.
Don't know how I lived without it. I know how I lived without it. I had one password for 200 websites, which is very dangerous, and so if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. And
Yeah,
I signed up for a 5-year back when the deal was smoking, and I'm good for probably 3 more years, and I've told my brothers and my sisters, you got to get it.
Yeah, we're still looking in the 60-degree range here,
Huh.
which again seems too good to be true. It does show our performance core temp and our economy core temps. And the fan's running pretty good speed. The heatsink really isn't warm. It's like room temperature. So I'm believing these temps are real.
Okay.
I don't know how it's possible.
Yeah, you're just hammering that at 100%.
Mm-hmm. And for going on 10 minutes here.
Whew.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a very
Unexpected, yeah.
pleasant result. We'll let it keep going. If we can go the full 20 minutes, I'm blown away. However, I'm still putting that in Robot's foot with a liquid cooler regardless because of the looks, the aesthetics.
Yep.
I didn't expect this. So it turns out this is a viable solution for cooling. And the Seagate, that FireCuda 530, performing much better than what I saw with Thready's Revenge. I don't know why, but I'm happy there's nothing wrong with it. There's my friend Ron Hillier joins us in the chat. You got to speak up.
Hi, Ron.
There it is.
Andy Kane, do you have a cold, Mitch? No, Andy, the temperature dropped literally like from 80 to 20 degrees in a matter of like 3 or 4 days, and my sinuses just don't like it. They don't like a change. So maybe a cold, maybe, but it's allergies.
Our friend Marvin Jameson joins us in the chat.
Hey.
Hi, Marvin.
While we're doing this, we could look at those optional updates.
Okay.
Why not? It's not like we have to sit here and do nothing else but Prime 95. This is a powerful processor. It could do multiple things at the same time. Settings. Windows updates. Advanced options. Receive updates for Microsoft products. Sure. That's how you get your Microsoft Office updates automatically. Optional updates,
There's
one
one.
available. Drivers. Oh, there's a Bluetooth driver. Okay. Yeah, I forgot this is wireless.
Yeah, that ought to be quick. Yeah.
Yeah, and we can do that at the same time as the Prime 95. That looks good. Again, I appreciate the tips there from the chat room. I'm really bumbling in Windows 11. I'm kind of thrown by how they move some things around and how it looks. And of course, the distance being as far as I am from the screen and my eyes being the way they are isn't helping. And a contribution comes in from Sean Feliciano with $10 super chat contribution. Says, hey, Carrie and Mitch, just got out of work. Glad I can catch the live stream. Hope you gentlemen are doing well. Carrie, thank you for all you do for us and the community. Well, Sean, thank you for your support and for being a part of this amazing community we have here, which is, I can't tell you what it means to me. It's so just a wonderful bunch of virtual friends. some are real life. And I just see if I've missed any other contributions or questions. If you had a question and I missed it, feel free to ask it again. I probably didn't see it. We are now on about 13 minutes. There's 7 more minutes to go before the Prime 95 test would be standard and complete. So we can close this down. There's no more updates. Crazy. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
How's the power supply? Oh, it's toasty.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, that power supply at 500 watts. I'd be curious if we pull that on a kilowatt meter and see what we're drawing from it. But this is a budget power supply.
No, but you've got the fan to the wood, right? So what if you were to put it up on its side? You're choking it. Yeah.
You know what? You have just leveled up. Wonderful. It's so good when the student becomes the teacher. That feels wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am sure that's I was suffocating it.
Suffocating it, yeah.
Yeah. And that could have blue screened the computer and I wouldn't have understood. I would have been thinking RAM, right? And completely
And I didn't think about it until you went toasty and I'm like, the fan's on the bottom.
Yeah, I was suffocating the power supply. Yep. The power supply isn't completely flat like the heat sink on the CPU. So there's probably some air that was getting in.
But not like now. Yeah.
Right. So it was gasping.
Yeah.
That's what's going on. Yeah, that's probably going to take a little while to cool off. Whoopsie.
Never mind. I still can't get over those temps. Yeah, I just can't get over those temps.
Oh, we got a doorbell.
Oh, boy.
Ding dong. And let's take a look here in the chat
your
room.
Stones in your head ringing? Okay.
Yeah, that was me going.
Yeah.
You left the power supply fan upside, choking out. And
then ding dong.
You're a ding dong. Yeah.
Perfect timing. Okay.
Jason wants to know, how does someone become a customer of yours? Well, essentially, if you're local to the Phoenix area, there is a service that I offer. However, I might be moving soon. There is a potential for Studio C in essentially western part of Michigan, Grand Rapids area. That is in process, but it could succeed or fail. I don't know yet. If it happens, it seems likely it will, but I don't want to jinx it, then I won't be taking on new customers in Phoenix for that reason. However, some people have ordered computers from me within the United States. I have some motherboards and CPUs that if it's in line with what you need and what your budget is, could certainly sell you a machine and save you some money. However, it's very difficult for me to support you in another state, so you'd sort of be on your own when it comes to any sort of repairs that are necessary, or you'd have to ship it back to me, whether I'm in Phoenix or I'm in Michigan, and that's costly. It's upwards of around $100 to ship a computer each way, and it takes about a week each way. So you're down $200 and a minimum of at least 3 to 4 weeks,
and you risk
which might not make it. You may not like that deal.
Yeah. And you risk damage.
Yeah, there's always a potential for damage or getting lost in the mail.
Certainly during the holidays with them throwing boxes.
Jason says he lives in Indiana. Yeah, so it sort of depends what it is you're looking for. Some people have asked me, what do you have to sell? Well, I'm not going to list it all out. It's too time consuming. Tell me what you need. Tell me what your budget is. If I have something here and I want to get rid of it, I can make you a good deal on it. Otherwise, may not be able to help you. But I do encourage people to do their own work. These videos are really designed for you to help yourself. That was never intended to be a commercial for my business. That's been an unintended, but not unpleasant consequence. Just wasn't expecting it. I should have. I mean, it seems pretty obvious when you think about it. But the whole idea is I'm trying to show everybody how to do it themselves so you can do it.
And if I can build 3 desktops thanks to Curie, anyone can do it. Just again,
if I can do it, anybody can.
You take your time, enjoy it. If there's something don't rush it. That's where you're going to get into trouble. So just
Jason wants to know if I do remote service. Not on a computer I've never seen before. There was an issue an incident a few years ago where a customer wanted me to remote in, and they were local. And I had worked on their computer, but it had been over a year. And I said, I'm not comfortable working on a machine. I can't see it. And they said, well, I really want you to work on it. I said, but you have to understand that it's been over a year since I've seen it, so I don't really know what I'm working on. And he said, well, I really want you to do it. I said, okay. Bet against my better judgment. I succumbed, and I okay. And what was happening was the person's hard drive was failing, and I couldn't hear that. I couldn't hear the click, click, click. Right? But the computer was getting slower and slower, and then it just stopped responding. And then it wouldn't turn on again. And so any attempt at data recovery was vanquished. It would have to go to a professional data recovery service. No. You're feeling heat coming off of that? Well, we'll check the temp in a minute. But
he had no backups, or he did have backups?
I can't remember, but the whole point was if they'd have listened to me
Right.
and said, let's make arrangement, you shut it down, let's get it to me.
Me.
I would have heard the clicking sound, and my first concern would have been pulling data off of it, and I would have instantly not wasted any more time with it. It's extremely dangerous to work on a computer remotely if it's an unfamiliar machine. Now, there are companies like mycomputerworks.com that routinely do that. How they handle that liability, I don't know, but I'm also being pulled in many different directions. I'm running 3 different businesses at the same time, while at the same time trying to acquire another studio. And the amount of time it takes to work remotely consumes hours of my day, meaning I can't help anybody else at that time. So while I appreciate your inquiry, I would strongly recommend you find somebody local, strictly for liability concerns. Yeah, I'm a terrible businessman, I should be taking every job that's offered and billing for it. I just can't. I would not do that if I were you. Unless you know somebody really, really well, I wouldn't do it. Larry Wood with a $20 Super Chat contribution. What did we miss in the mail? Oh, did my processor arrive? There's also supposed to be a motherboard. That package is too small to be both.
Yeah, mighty thin.
Well, we're running out of time for today, but we will revisit.
And we're at the 20 minutes.
Oh yeah, we're at 20 minutes and 30 seconds. Let's take a quick look at where we're at.
Whew.
Oh, they squished the heck out of that box.
Jeez.
Yeah, let me see that.
Show the people. Terrible. God.
So it looks like we hit 80.
Okay.
That's really, really good.
Yeah.
After we are now just about 21 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and stop
Yeah.
the torture test.
Watch these temps go down quick.
And we should see the temps drop instantly.
Yeah.
Oh, I've already heard the fan quiet down. So what have we here?
You got to show the people. Go on camera. Show them. It looks all right. I mean,
This is the new thin design.
yeah.
Yeah, let's see if we can go full screen on camera 1.
Go up front and show. Let me feel this.
Normally Amazon ships in a box. This was shipped in a padded envelope. And one of the dangers of shipping computers, especially when we're shipping it via land, because air freight is very expensive, is the opportunity for heavier objects to be placed on the box or for the box to be tossed about. So this is a brand new 13600K, brand new, not a Amazon warehouse purchase.
Okay.
And this is how it has arrived. That's very unusual.
In a bag, not a box.
But there's really nothing to break on a processor,
You know.
and the box would be just thrown away. It's not a collector's item. But that's our chip. And yes, we can use this chip in the same motherboard that we've used today on the 12th gen. The 13900K is far too rich for my blood, so that's why I just went with I've been a big fan of these 10600K, 11600K, and the 12600K are great values. Is that cooled down? Oh, it's massively cooled down.
Yeah.
Wow. What was I thinking? I'll tell you what, since I came back from vacation, I've had a hard time getting back into the groove of things. And some of the basic steps that I just do thoughtlessly, because I haven't done it in a while. That's how quick. That's why I'm always iterating the importance of being a professional working computer technician. Because the minute you step out of it, within a matter of weeks, you start to lose the knowledge of working in it every day, the familiarity and the common.
Just your edge sharp.
Yeah, to keep your edge, keep the edge sharp. That's exactly what it is, staying sharp.
Yeah.
So by taking the time off that I've taken and by spreading my time out with other projects other than builds and repairs, I've gotten a little rusty in that little tiny period of time. Can you imagine if I stepped out of it for a year? It would be quite difficult to catch back up. So that's a prime example. Mira Ora became a member for 5 months. Says, hey, all just tuned in. Happy Halloween. Well, happy Halloween to you. I don't know if I'll see you guys again between now and Halloween, so I do hope here in the States, for those of us that participate in that you have a good one. And Chris Johnson became a member for 6 months. Says, hey, Carrie and Mitch, I'm glad to be here among friends, and I hope to catch the next live video. Well, we hope so too. Thank you for supporting the channel and becoming a member of our tech club, both of you, and everyone else who did today. Appreciate that very, very much. I don't know, is there anything left to do? There's probably a BIOS update, which I'm not too concerned about right now because it might be for 13th gen compatibility. If I do a BIOS update on it now, I can probably just drop the chip in, the new 13th gen, and it'll work fine. But what happens if you get a brand new motherboard and all you have is a 13th gen chip, and the motherboard is a 600 series, same motherboard, let's say a Z690. And that motherboard's been here for a few months, so clearly it would not have the latest BIOS to recognize chips that were not available when I bought this board. So how do you flash the BIOS on a board that won't boot with the chip you have? Well, there is a way, at least with this board, and we will cover that next time. Yeah, we'll do it next time. And by next time, I don't know if I mean the next live video or next Friday's video. I'm not sure yet. It kind of depends on, once again, so many things happening. I'm getting pulled in multiple directions at the same time. But I want to show you, if it's something you want to consider, so you don't want to get the DDR5 RAM, let's say, you get a 600 series board with DDR4, and specifically if you're getting this Gigabyte board, I can show you exactly what you need to do, which I couldn't tell you right now because I haven't done it yet. I have a vague idea, and here's a hint. Similar to how we did it with the Ryzen boards when the new Ryzen chips came out and what you had to do to make them compatible. And one of the ways, of course, so you're not assuming, one of the ways is to just use a compatible chip just temporarily to flash the BIOS. But what if you don't have the compatible chip?
It'd be interesting, yeah.
So I'll show you. It's actually pretty simple, but very precise. You must follow the steps exactly, or it ain't gonna work. I mean, it won't necessarily blow up, but you'll be spinning your wheels for a while until you do it exactly the way it tells you to. And we'll show that live here very soon.
Speaking of spinning the wheels, chat, yeah, I will leave Friday, November 10th, with a couple of guys to ride my motorcycle like I did last year down to the Rocky Point motorcycle rally. That's always fun for 3 or 4 days, and got a nice condo at the beach, and it's only a 5-hour drive, and that's long enough for me, and yeah, that'll be fun. So just got to put a new battery in the motorcycle, so the old one doesn't want to turn over. It's that time, so I bought it, and so
you and batteries lately.
Yeah. It's my magnetism. It drains the battery.
It's draining something.
Yeah, yeah. So.
All right, guys, listen, thanks to everybody for joining us today, all my friends and supporters, both in blue and green here in the chat room. And yeah, everything, apart from some oversight on my part, you know, there's important lessons in here, and now perhaps you understand why. I might not have done a very good explanation of why in the past. So by doing simple things like not paying attention to where the fan is on the power supply, you now see the effect, or the start of the effect. If we'd have left it that way, it probably would have eventually blue screen. Seeing this cooler perform as well as it has on a 12900K makes no sense to me. I don't understand it. That is a very, very hot chip, and yet it seems to be running far better cooler than the 9900KS that's in the streamer. There is a KS version. I know there's a KS version of the 12th gen. I believe there's a KS version of the 13th, and it's around $700. And I know for a fact that runs super hot. So I'm avoiding that because cooling this has been difficult enough. I can't imagine something getting hotter. We will eventually put this board into the robot's foot case, the big case with all the big RGB in the front, and use the liquid cooler that's in there already, even though we don't necessarily need it. Aesthetically, it's going to be very
And it will be for
attractive.
Will be for sale.
Well, it's my preference not to sell it. It would have to go to somebody locally. I can't ship it.
Yeah, no, it would.
It's too big, it's too heavy, and it's likely going to be damaged.
Yeah.
But yes, if somebody were to call me and say, hey, I'm in the
Phoenix,
area, I'm in Arizona, or I'm willing to drive out,
Right.
and they want to pay the price for it, it's expensive.
Yep. But
Absolutely.
what a looker.
It's very unique. You likely won't, none of your friends or
They'd just be green with envy.
they probably won't have seen this case in person before. So if exclusivity is important to you, it's a beautiful case. However, I'm not advertising it for sale, but I wasn't advertising the Thready's Revenge for sale either. But it lined up perfectly with a person that had need for it, had the money for it, and was local. So everything just lined up. I said, great, happy to sell it. They're happy. I'm kind of jealous, really, but I don't have need for that much power. I think they're going to be running a Windows server and a virtual machine on that thing as just one of the tasks is going to be doing at the same time as other things. So it's really an ideal system for a power user like that. In the meantime, good to see you again.
Yeah. Thanks for having me over, and everyone hanging with us today on this Freaky Friday before Halloween.
Did you see the SpaceX launch?
Oh.
You could see it in the sky yesterday.
Oh.
They're launching Falcon Heavy
Okay.
on Halloween.
Who?
They've only launched that once before. Remember when Elon put his car in space? Mm-hmm. And then when the two boosters come down and like a ballet, they come down together and land side by side?
Okay.
They've done 49 launches this year. That's more than one a week. Isn't that insane? So Falcon Heavy will be its second launch. It's a secret government deployment of orbit. However, should be quite the spectacle. And hopefully everything goes smoothly. And of course, Elon is now the new owner of Twitter. He is the chief twit, as he says.
Yep.
We'll be seeing some big changes coming up with Twitter, for better or for worse. I like Elon. I'm mostly on board with his ideas, mostly. And I figure Twitter can't get any worse. So you can only, once you're down, the good news is you only have one way to go. I don't know how somebody spends $44 billion and laughs about it. Like,
Yeah.
that would be quite stressful. In the meantime, I will be back as time allows during the week. I'm always live every Friday at 1 o'clock Arizona time. I hope you will join me then. If you click the subscribe button, that's a red button there below the video, and click the bell icon to turn on notification, then you can be alerted anytime I'm live or posting a new video. Also want to go into your YouTube settings and decide how you want to be notified. So it's kind of a few steps. You can always Google how to turn on notifications. Pay attention to the date. You want to find recent information because YouTube's changed the interface multiple times over the years. So pay very close attention to the date of the results. Even here on YouTube, there are videos on this topic demonstrating where to go to make these settings changes. But if you're watching a video from 4 years ago, it won't be very helpful for you. There's a thumbs up button if you enjoy the content and you want to see more like that. You can let the content creator know of any video here on YouTube that you enjoyed the content and want to see more like it by hitting the thumbs up. That also trains YouTube about what content they should suggest to you, just like Netflix or Spotify, where you tell it if you like a certain movie or show or music, so it can make suggestions that are more accurate to what you might prefer that you didn't know was out there. So you're not just helping the content creator, you're helping yourself. You know, ignorance is bliss. There could be some content out there you had no idea that existed. There's a guy I hear on YouTube that I stumbled, just to give you an example before we wrap things up. His YouTube username or channel name is Chisel316, and he loves synthesizers. And he is recreating synth pop of the 80s all by himself. Okay. It's like Cars by Gary Newman, Freakazoid, a lot of the freestyle dance music, songs by New Shoes and Expose. And he has his daughter, and she'll sing, and it's really cute. It's very much a family thing. It almost feels like you're watching somebody's family video. And it's just an honesty to it. And the guy just does an amazing job recreating these songs. YouTube recommended it to me based on some other searches and, you know, my thumbs up. Otherwise, I didn't know to look for it.
Right.
So that's what the thumbs up helps, or thumbs down also helps to tell, you know, help YouTube's AI know what not to recommend for you. So those are there. They benefit everybody when used, and it's just one click. All right, that's going to wrap it up for us for today. Thanks again for joining. Thanks for all the contribution support. Thanks to Camera Girl, as always. Great camera work.
Can I say hello?
Yeah, come on in. You want to say hello? Say goodbye.
Say goodbye. Hi, everybody. Just wanted to say happy Halloween. This is your opportunity to do something and be something a little different outside of the norm. But
Maybe they already are outside of the norm.
Maybe.
I mean, they're watching me. Yeah.
Enjoy your weekend. Thank you so much. And it was nice talking to everybody.
All right, we'll see you all very, very soon. Until then,
Bye for now.
bye-bye. I have to pick an outro. We'll do a fun outro.
Okay.